One inside the deep game woods of Walbury, a brutal battle has just ended. Dead warriors litter the clearing, leaving only one battered knight kneeling on his sword. Facing the victors, the young man sighs that even after trying everything, he still hasn't shown up. With no options, what should they do? Up on her wooden throne, the girl sighs deeply before giving a cold command. She orders the executioner to eliminate the prisoner, swinging her heavy axe. But before the blade can fall, a mysterious man appears out of nowhere and cuts the executioner down. Saving the captive, he leaves the surrounding warriors completely stunned by his sudden arrival. Are they actually getting saved here? Wait, the enemies recognize his face. They need to capture him immediately, calling for everyone to charge Hurkan together. He crushes his foes, asking if rushing him all at once was smart. The young man groans to his allies that they simply stand no chance of defeating him. After all, this is the unstoppable Hurkan, whose real name is Jaehyun. The hero killer from Haho Mask accepts the saved warriors' sincere apologies. They admit it is all their fault, never imagining these scoundrels would ambush them here. As they explain, Jaehyun hides his weapon behind his back with a calm expression. He reassures them that they have absolutely nothing to apologize for as he reaches out. Telling the knight to stand, Jaehyun explains that they are fine and this is not their fault. Instead, blame that pathetic loser who always lags behind because she has zero actual skill. Jaehyun glares directly at the throne. Smiling coldly, she mocks their touching friendship, asking why Jaehyun is acting so incredibly sentimental. Standing up from her seat, she slowly walks directly toward Jaehyun with an incredibly smug expression. She scoffs that even when weaklings band together, they still amount to absolutely nothing. This is Surur, whose real name is Seolyeon, the Queen of Thunder from the Thunder Hunters. Jaehyun snaps that she is the one who always cries after being defeated. She is forced to recharge every single time those same losers crush her in battle. Annoyed, Seolyeon warns him to watch his tongue unless he wants to cry in regret later. Gripping his watch face, Jaehyun calmly replies that regret is not in his vocabulary. With his system slot suddenly activated, his massive legendary armor wraps around his body once again. As a sharp blade materializes in his hand, Jaehyun points it directly at her throat. He declares that only cowards like her regret things, making Seolyeon explode in pure rage. Calling him an arrogant fool, she orders her men to destroy him. Jaehyun just laughs, telling her she still does not understand that she can never win. She will never beat him, but brace yourselves, because everything is about to go horribly wrong. A cold blade suddenly pierces straight through his body from behind, delivered by the man he saved. The traitor has stabbed a sword right through Jaehyun's back. His health bar rapidly drains to zero as his movements become completely paralyzed. Dropping his weapon, Jaehyun collapses heavily to his knees in absolute disbelief. He simply cannot comprehend what is happening as the traitor offers a fake apology. The betrayer mutters that everyone has to make a living and asks not to be hated. Jaehyun slowly turns around to look at the betrayer, completely unable to believe his own eyes. As Seolyeon laughs hysterically, Jaehyun finally realizes this was a massive setup. Seolyeon mocks him, saying he was far too foolish to survive this brutal world. He got too caught up in his little friendship fantasy, which means nothing compared to cash. She coldly declares that she is officially erasing Hurkan from the game forever. She added that if she hunted him down every time he logged in, he would never make progress. Seolyeon smiled, noting how he spent every single second playing Warlord. After all, he was just a total loser, with nothing else in his life. Seolyeon sneered, calling him nothing but useless trash once again. Angered, Jaehyun lunged forward, reaching out and screaming at Seolyeon to shut her mouth. But the young man could not even take a step toward her. Dozens of sharp blades had already skewered his body. He froze. Seolyeon thanked her allies for their help, while Jaehyun demanded to know why. They knew exactly how much blood and sweat he had given to this guild. The traitor scoffed, telling him their rivals offered hundreds of millions for this hit. Money speaks louder than loyalty, so what else did he expect? Jaehyun was stunned. Could everything really be bought with cash? Did they completely forget everything he had built for them? They were supposed to be family. Then, the grim red system warning flashed. "You are dead, penalty, locked out for 2 days." Jaehyun bolted upright in shock. Ripping off his VR helmet inside the capsule, the words "game over" rang in his head. Jaehyun screamed in agony. Warlord was a massive, globally dominant virtual reality hit. Right then, a live stream showed knights battling a titanic, fire-breathing red dragon. It was an incredible virtual universe governed entirely by artificial intelligence. A digital goldmine generating wealth beyond anyone's wildest dreams. This virtual battlefield was the only place where the young man truly shined. In reality, he was called worthless, but online, his godly skills amazed everyone. An armored player once reached out to him, offering to build a guild together. Back then, Jaehyun finally felt like he belonged somewhere in this world. Or so he foolishly believed. Blind with rage, he sprinted out of his room. He wanted to hunt those traitors down and tear them apart. Clutching his phone, Jaehyun desperately tried to make sense of the betrayal. Had he poured his soul into the game just to fund their comfortable lives? As he stepped onto the crosswalk, the traffic lights suddenly turned red. Glued to his phone, he was completely oblivious to the massive truck speeding closer. If he knew things would end this way, he never would have trusted anyone. Caring for others was his greatest mistake. There was absolutely no time to dodge the oncoming metal beast. Panic screams echoed as witnesses realized a pedestrian had just been struck. Blood pooled on the pavement while his phone screen helplessly buzzed. Hit by a massive garbage truck, Jaehyun refused to let his life end here. The smug face of the traitor boasting about millions burned in his fading mind. As darkness claimed Jaehyun, he vowed to get revenge. It would all pay. Suddenly, a strange digital prompt pinged in his mind. Connection established, user verification in progress. Welcome back, user Hurkan. Jaehyun snapped his eyes open as the system announced a mandatory tutorial. His task was simple yet deadly: survive against the labyrinth boss, the Minotaur. Hurkan froze. This was definitely the starting quest of Warlord, but how? Suddenly, a gruff voice yelled out, snapping him back to reality. A warrior told the rookie to stop daydreaming and brace himself. Warning signs flash. He must destroy the Minotaur, a vicious beast with glowing eyes. The beast roars as the battle begins. The others warn it is unbeatable. It will take all three of them working together just to bring it down. They must tank the hits together, but Hurkan is stunned. He is shocked. Is this really the training Minotaur boss? Was it not removed 5 years ago for being too difficult? His comrade asks what 5 years he is talking about. Warworld is new. It only came out 10 months ago. Hurkan realizes what is happening. Only 10 months, the other players are totally baffled by his behavior. They start whispering quietly among themselves. They need to focus, but Hurkan ignores them and walks ahead. They watch in shock. Where is he going? Hurkan suddenly charges directly at the massive and terrifying monster. The others scream. Has he lost his mind? He draws his blade. He strikes. His teammates scream that he will die. The fight is over instantly. The others are completely stunned by what they see. Did he really just slay the massive boss in one single hit? A player extends his hand and invites him to join their top-tier guild. But Hurkan flatly refuses, stating his choice has already been made. They stare in absolute confusion, but his next words are chilling. If he ever trusts humans again, he is no better than a dog. Yes, the hero killer Hurkan has regressed. He wakes in a pod. With the helmet still on, he looks around, feeling utterly confused. Is this actually the old VR store from 5 years ago? Back when he was too broke to afford his own proper gaming gear. He really traveled back in time. Hurkan immediately leaps out of the capsule. He rushes outside. If this is real, he cannot waste a second. Armed with 5 years of future knowledge, he holds a massive advantage. Using this knowledge, he can easily get revenge on those traitors. Time for payback. He hands his card over to the store clerk. He asks for a standard terminal. She takes his card with a smile. She promises to process his payment quickly. While waiting, Hurkan begins plotting his next move. Where should he start? First, he needs to grind a few levels, but the clerk calls out. She tells him that his card has been declined. Hurkan is stunned. He forgot he was absolutely penniless back then. If he had the cash, he would have bought a terminal long ago. What can he do? Grinding for money will take way too long. Suddenly, a live gaming broadcast on the big screen catches his attention. A woman on screen declares that the strong never fear any trials. She wants players to sign up as volunteers. It is the famous top ranker, the Queen of Thunder, Seer. She urges them to play Warlord. Hurkan stares at the screen. Looking at the massive display, he realizes he cannot afford to be picky. Desperate times call for desperate measures. He needs a terminal right now. The gear was completely set up. and everything was finally ready to go. To get some fast cash, Gherkin reached out to some shady loan sharks. They only lent money for one day and warned him that missing the deadline meant absolute hell. He didn't care. Gherkin readily agreed to every single deadly condition. Even if it meant walking through fire, trust me, he was ready to destroy those bastards. Gherkin threw on his virtual reality helmet and initiated the login process. Biometric scan complete, the system welcomed Gherkin back to the virtual world. It had been way too long, and now it was finally time to make his grand return. Suddenly, a beautiful young woman appeared to congratulate him on finishing basic training. Her name was Ariadne, his personal guide sent to help him choose a primary class. She explained that every adventurer had 3 primary paths to choose from. Early skill choices would lock in his role, starting with the frontline warrior class. Perfect for players who crave up-close melee combat and high-stakes action. Gherkin knew the warrior path inside out from his previous run, meaning fast leveling. However, going solo later on with a basic melee build would be a nightmare. A hard pass next was Cleric, a magic support class. It specialized in healing and buffing allies. Gherkin rejected it instantly. He was not about to spend his time playing babysitter to other players. Ariadne smiled, noting only one path remained, and wished him an exciting journey. Gherkin looked down as a strange, magical light began to envelop his body. Class selection locked. The system announced his immediate transfer to the designated tower. Off to the tower he goes. An elderly man welcomed him. He introduced himself as Galko, a guide of magic. This NPC mage asked what kind of mystical secrets the young adventurer wished to uncover. Gherkin did not hesitate, stating clearly that he wanted to learn dark magic. The old guide looked confused, asking if he actually meant earth magic. Gherkin looked him dead in the eye and repeated his demand for dark magic. Galko gasped, wondering how a mere beginner even knew about such a taboo art. It devours the caster's soul. Gherkin simply smirked and shrugged. Gherkin brushed it off, saying he knew the risks and still absolutely wanted to learn. Seeing his resolve, the old man smirked and decided it was time to drop the act. He ripped off his disguise, revealing his true face to the young player. Galko admitted it had been ages since someone had dared to walk this forbidden path. If he was truly ready, he had to touch the ancient book of skills. He warned that this road was way too treacherous for any faint-hearted seeker. Gherkin stepped forward. "Let's do this," he said. "My heart is anything but weak." Galko laughed, delighted that someone genuinely interesting had finally shown up. He remembered a legendary video from his past life about a solo necromancer. That player had completely crushed a high-level boss all on his own. This was the exact kind of overwhelming power Gherkin needed right now. Class locked, he was now a necromancer, receiving a skeleton fragment. A small, glowing blue skull materialized directly in Gherkin's palm. He tossed the fragment onto the ground, summoning a magic-infused skeleton warrior. As the summon took shape, Gherkin knew it was time to start grinding. He needed a beginner-level training dungeon, especially since his new pet was incredibly fragile. Could not even stay balanced on his shoulders. The system alerts that he has entered the beginner dungeon, but Gherkin quickly realizes this does not look like the calm summon from his past life. Wait, what is going on here? He needs to inspect his skill window. Right away, he notices the skeleton fragment has a pretty pathetic skill level. It is all because his own character level is absolute rock bottom. Level up fast. Luckily, some perfect target monsters show up right on cue. They are low-tier wolves made of coal. They are not incredibly strong, but they move pretty fast. Perfect practice targets for Gherkin to test his summon. He activates the fragment to start the battle. The bony warrior spots the enemy and takes a fighting stance. Getting the green light, it charges ahead. At the beast, watching this, Gherkin is thrilled. It is looking better than expected. He genuinely believes that at this rate, he will hit maximum level in absolutely no time, but then, boom, the skeleton gets totally obliterated instantly. The wolf barely had to try. A look of pure, crushing disappointment washes over Gherkin's face. Seriously, how is this even possible? Something is wrong. He pulls up his system window again. That is when the realization hits him. He forgot to select a battle mode. He has to manually toggle the setting. To defense mode, Gherkin stares as the wolves continue tearing his summon apart. Bone by bone, no way, this cannot be happening. Desperate, he quickly switches to special action mode, and just like that, the little skeleton begins Dancing wildly, absolutely zero help in a real fight, Gherkin can only stare in absolute shock, and honestly, can you blame him? Then, a system alert pops up: character deletion failed. New accounts under 3 months cannot be deleted. Gherkin is completely locked in. No class changes either, and those heavy loan payments start next month. Gherkin is pure panic. Why is nothing going right? Why is this skeleton failing him? Seriously, this thing is driving him crazy. How did the top necromancers do this before? Then, the system reveals. The summon features a deep learning artificial intelligence that actually learns through combat. Gherkin remembers how the skeleton was closely watching his own movements earlier. He suddenly gets it: this bony warrior needs real, hands-on training. Time to teach it personally. Gherkin picks up his weapon and grins. He tells the summon it is lucky to have a master like him. After all, people called him a genius back then. He trained elite guild members to be the absolute best. He swings his weapon and gives his student one thing: dodge the attack or you die. The skeleton stands stiff, thrusting its weapon forward without dodging. Predictably, smash! The poor skeleton gets sent flying across the dirt. Gherkin yells at it: do not just stand there when hit. You have to find your footing, dodge the next blow, and instantly strike back. Back up! The skeleton readies its defense for round 2. Now it is time to throw it right back into the fire. The wolves growl, lunging at him, but this time, everything is different. Armed with those brand new reflexes, it cleanly slices through them. The skeleton turns, looking right at his master. Gherkin was surprised. Where was the enemy even looking? Hadn't he been told to stay focused during battle? The young man scoffed. He had to admit the skeleton's move wasn't bad. Its skill was growing. It was gaining the right abilities, and the system suddenly popped up. The player's level had increased because the skeleton finally passed the tough test. Over in Figus Castle, the central square was completely packed. Everyone was searching for a reliable guild to call their new family. Others wanted a raid party for the forest spider. Meanwhile, Gherkin had other plans. With just a few more days of solid training, he could solo this dungeon. Our hero knew that the real challenge was only just beginning. First, he had to hit level 10. Suddenly, another player approached him. Demanding an apology, the guy claimed Gherkin had bumped into his shoulder. Gherkin was surprised. Who were these random guys? They looked like cheap thugs, but he knew every single second counted. Maybe he should just wipe them out. The stranger became instantly furious. What kind of jerk size like that right in the middle of a talk? The thug actually swung his fist, but suddenly a massive warrior stepped in. He caught the thug's arm instantly. The big guy warned him to back off. He shouldn't be starting fights here. The hooligan snapped back, asking if they were together. The giant calmly replied that it wasn't quite like that. Talk about a twist. Gherkin immediately recognized the legendary powerhouse standing right there. This was Matador Cheb, an elite, high-ranking warrior from his past life. He was shocked to find such a famous powerhouse wandering around here. The thug spat on the ground and cursed, rubbing his bruised knuckles angrily. He warned Cheb to stay out of it, claiming the kid hit him first. The thug sneered, asking if he had ever heard of an eye for an eye. Cheb smirked and said he understood perfectly. Suddenly, the thug got serious. The thug's body suddenly erupted in flames, shocking both Gherkin and the crowd. Seeing this insane transformation, Matador Cheb decided he should match his energy. He pointed out that since the guy had pushed him, things were even. The punks suddenly recognized him. He was the leader of the Red Bulls Guild. That's a top 30 guild, and this man is famous for loving violence. He is an absolute beast. Cheb stepped closer, asking for his final answer. Terribly shaken, the bully apologized quickly and fled with his gang. They were absolutely terrified. Cheb yelled out that he was glad they talked. It's always nice to settle things peacefully, he laughed. Then he turned around. He asked Gherkin if he was all right, advising him to ignore those losers. Gherkin thanked him, but coldly added that he didn't need any help next time. He could handle it himself. Matador Cheb watched him walk off, quite intrigued. He thought the kid was incredibly cold. Meanwhile, Gherkin was furious with himself. He had actually felt intimidated by Matador Cheb's overwhelming power. He swore that next time they crossed paths, things would be totally different. Walking away, Gherkin had to admit the massive gap between them was real. Both Suri and Cheb were on another level entirely. To get his revenge, he needed power. Suddenly, a massive, terrifying beast materialized right above the young warrior. Gherkin did not even flinch. His skeleton reacted instantly, lunging forward to attack. It drove its sword deep into the beast's chest, destroying it without mercy. The monster was shattered. His summon had done its job, earning a notification. His skeleton warrior had successfully hunted down the coal tiger. A level-up notification popped up. Finally, Gherkin realized it had taken 3 whole days. Just to reach level 10, that was way slower than he wanted. Still, the system congratulated him. The starter dungeon was now completely cleared. His novice mark vanished. Gherkin smiled. He had reached a major milestone. Things were changing. Right on cue, a status watch materialized on his wrist. It displayed his stats, quests, a map, inventory, and even a messaging tool. Standard game features, sure, but Gherkin had not felt this excited in ages. He quickly opened his status window. Just as he suspected, his attributes had reset. He paused. He needed to spend these valuable new points carefully. Normal necromancers would immediately dump everything into mana or intelligence. But Gherkin did something wild. He put every single point into strength. His strength instantly shot up by 50 points. Even his summon looked confused. It stared at him with almost pitiful eyes. Gherkin was stunned. Still, he had absolutely no intention of giving up on necromancy. Physical power was required to properly train and upgrade his bony companion. Boosting magic stats right now would not change his basic combat style at all. But with high strength, he could personally demonstrate elite battle techniques to it. His survival depended entirely on making this summon as strong as possible. That meant endless training lay ahead. Besides, any stat gaps could be fixed later. There were always ways to patch up weaker stats down the road. Figus Castle, Gherkin stepped inside the rowdy local raiders guild. Inside, players were practically fighting over the best quests on the board. Gherkin walked past the chaos. To him, these missions looked incredibly mediocre. Still, seeing the newbies get so fired up brought back some nostalgic vibes. He ignored the crowd and approached the receptionist, asking for a quest. The clerk sighed, warning him that only low-paying, brutal missions were left on the board. They were so bad that absolutely nobody wanted to touch them. But Gherkin pointed to one specific spot. To him, this trash quest was pure gold. The target was the cave of Mount Bima, requiring a total sweep of nearby monsters. A measly 10 gold coins. The old man asked if he was crazy. Regardless, the system confirmed he had accepted it. Gherkin knew that completing this boring grind would be worth it. It was his ticket to an incredibly rare title. The promising title would boost his stats by a direct percentage. It was the ultimate fast track for his early career. Now he needed gear. He quickly geared up and made his way to the base of Mount Bima. The grind was about to start, but his current outfit looked totally ridiculous. Looking like a complete mess put him in a terrible mood. Spending every last coin on the skeleton's equipment left him completely broke. So he had to settle for this junk. He just needed to clear this fast. He had to finish this quest quickly to afford some decent armor. He hunts for monsters, believing every single second counts. Suddenly, a bloodied man stumbles out, screaming for help. Hidden nearby, his allies wait, waiting for an easy victim. Meanwhile, a bright-eyed knight steps onto the path, seeking adventure. Mount Bima is the perfect start. Honestly, Multi thought he was pretty good. Reaching level 11 already meant he could easily become a top player soon. That is when Multi hears a sudden, desperate cry for help. Someone yells that his buddy is badly hurt, pointing to a bloodied guy. Seeing him lie there, Multi rushes over eagerly to ask what happened. The victim gasps that they were suddenly ambushed. It was some terrifying monster they had never seen before, and they barely escaped. They have no healing potions left, so Multi kindly offers his own. Activating his smart watch to transfer them, he hears the guy weep. The grateful guy cries, promising they will absolutely repay his incredible kindness. But right then, an armed thug sneaks up behind Multi and swings a heavy mace. Multi is instantly deactivated, crashing down. The crying guy suddenly smirks. The thug laughs, saying they will definitely put all this gear to good use. Multi groans that he was tricked by a bunch of spineless, pathetic cowards. The thug just laughs. Why is this dead knight being so incredibly rude? He calls Multi an absolute fool for falling for such an obvious, simple trick. This is just a joke, and the system announces that Multi has died. His timer resets. The killer chuckles. Messing with newbies is always a blast. Did you see his face? These are Ralph family guild members. They belong to a PK guild, seeking their next target. Meanwhile, our skeleton draws his sword, ready to fight. Jurkin quickly commands him, switching the skeleton straight into active attack mode. Instantly, the summon charges forward, red eyes burning with absolute ferocity. Soon, the system alerts that the skeleton warrior has slain the ancient tree wolf. Sweet experience points flood right in. With a real sword, wolves are easy. Prioritizing gear for his minion first was definitely the smartest move here. Any real gamer knows that stats and weapons matter way more than looks. The skeleton looks at him, seemingly quite upset about something. Jurkin is confused. What is going on in that bony skull? He turns, telling the summon to hurry up and follow if he is finished. They need to level up fast. The skeleton reluctantly turns to follow his master. He looks incredibly determined, ready to crush anything in their path. Suddenly, thwack, an arrow pierces right through his skull. Talk about a rude awakening. A few players step out of the dense forest. They claim the skeleton looked exactly like a wild monster from a distance. The stranger shrugs, and Jurkin calmly replies that it is fine. But then Jurkin spots a very blood-stained sword strapped to the guy's back. Even worse, he has several blood-spattered smart watches wrapped around his wrist. Jurkin demands a mana potion as compensation, promising to forgive them if they pay. The stranger claims they do not have any. Oh, this is getting tense. But if mana automatically increased during a level up, they could easily help him. Jurkin was totally surprised. Did they really not mind helping? The stranger admitted it was their fault, and they wanted to make things right. Jurkin agreed, noting that the monsters had shown up at the perfect moment. Meanwhile, the villain whispered to his allies to weaken this target first. They would soften him up and then finish him off, stick to the plan. After fending off the beast, they would take the next step. Time to move to Phase 2. The leader activated an attack buff. This boost gave them a major tactical advantage to execute their scheme. He planned to herd a monster toward the man while faking a mistake. Jurkin pretended to panic, shouting that the beast was coming right for him. At first, the bandits grinned, thinking their trap worked perfectly. But their smiles quickly faded away. They watched the skeleton completely demolish the monster with ease. Jurkin sighed, wondering why his summon could not move any faster. He told the strangers everything was fine to continue. The bandits were stunned, realizing this summon was way too strong. His true level had to be much higher than they initially guessed. Deciding to go all in, they lured several monsters toward him at once. While he was distracted, they planned to strike him from behind. But our hero effortlessly dodged the incoming blow, shocking his attacker. In a flash, Jurkin retaliated with a brutal counterattack. He buried his sword deep into the chest of the bandit, leaving them horrified. No way their heavy hitter got taken out that fast. Suddenly, Jurkin turned his gaze toward them and charged with his sword. The loyal skeleton followed right behind, sending the bandits into a panic. They screamed for him to stop, begging to talk things out peacefully. Jurkin did not hesitate for a second, slashing down without mercy. His skeleton copied him, carving them up as blood painted the walls. He stood over the dying thug, saying he knew exactly what they were. Trash who lied to people just to rob them of everything. In his past life, he might have foolishly fallen for their pathetic act. But those days are long gone. The bleeding bandit begged him to stop. He offered to surrender every single item he owned in exchange for his life. Jurkin just raised his blade, saying he does not trust anyone anymore. The bandits were wiped out. A system alert popped up, confirming the defeat of Ralph. 8 unclaimed war watches dropped to the ground. Jurkin muttered that the dead guy was totally out of his mind. But since they are dead, he might as well claim their gear. Starting with their clothes, he stripped them clean. Then he looked back. His skeleton was still hacking away at the lifeless corpse. It seemed like it was letting out a whole lot of pent-up anger. Jurkin chuckled, suggesting his summon grab a prize of its own. The skeleton immediately grabbed a sword and happily waved it around. Jurkin smiled, saying looks do not matter. What really mattered was the gear and the loot inside. Jurkin knew 8 pairs of war watches were a massive jackpot when you sell another player's. Watch a random item drop straight from their inventory. It could be any rare item, like Black Goblin Pants that boosted mana and intelligence, or a sword imbued with ancient tree essence. To increase magical power, even a rare skill book like Demons. Curse was possible, but money was the true jackpot. A critical artifact began. to materialize right in his hands. Jurkin finally received the mask, and it happened way faster than he ever expected. Jurkin decided that from now on he would record his gameplay. Building a strong personal brand was vital. Jurkin knew that if his entire guild wore the hilarious haha mask, they would instantly go viral. He proposed naming the guild Haha's Mask, though he did consider some completely different names first. He was sick of people stealing his hard-earned loot. He was going to use this. Jurkin equipped the mask, ordering his skeleton to follow him at the end of the stone path by the cliff. A dungeon portal glowed. The system announced that the player had officially entered the Mount Bima dungeon. Jurkin immediately figured that deadly blue werewolves spawned inside this cave dungeon. It was a tough zone, but with his high-tier gear, the raid should be a total breeze. He targeted a quick 10-minute speedrun. Jurkin dashed deep into the cave, telling his skeleton summon not to lag behind. Hours passed, and he grew incredibly frustrated. There were zero monsters anywhere. He expected a cleared alert to pop up, proving that someone else had already cleared the zone. Was this a glitch? Suddenly, Jurkin noticed a strange glow on the wall and the presence of biomass. He instantly realized what he was looking at. The glowing spot had already expanded to a massive size. The system notified him that he had discovered a rare scenario instance. No wonder there were no monsters around. A scenario instance is a one-time dungeon spawning randomly inside normal dungeon zones. When they appear, the main dungeon freezes completely until you clear it. They are far tougher than usual, but the loot is incredible. The main problem is that you either clear it or die inside. Talk about high stakes. Jurkin knew that, rationally speaking, taking this risk was foolish. After all, he would be locked out of the game for 2 whole days if he died. Dropping everything to focus on other quests was smarter, but he knew he absolutely had to clear this instance. Jurkin stepped inside, entering the dusty arena of a massive ruined amphitheater, completely caught off guard. Could this be the Colosseum? He felt a chill, but at the same time he was deeply intrigued. Suddenly, a massive beast appeared right before his eyes, with glowing red eyes and a loud growl. An infected werewolf stood there, its level completely hidden. It lunged forward, and the young man barely dodged out of the way at the last moment. Still, he was caught by the brutal shockwave. The skeleton saw his master get knocked aside and immediately leaped into the battle. Jurkin struggled to rise, wondering. Hurkan was having some terrible luck today, especially with these quest-linked infected monsters. He warned his skeleton that if they did not slay this beast immediately, dinner was off the menu. The skeleton instantly put on a determined expression, thrusting his sword forward to charge the monster. Meanwhile, Gherkin leaped high into the air, aiming to dive straight down at the infected beast. The creature bared its fangs in response, making the young warrior realize he needed a curse right now. Activating the demon curse, his sword was enveloped in dark energy, dealing massive damage to the target. The creature let out a painful roar, completely losing its balance. Gherkin smiled, thinking this curse was actually pretty great for his first try, but the beast suddenly gathered its final strength, jumping back up to lunge at our hero with sheer desperation. A notification popped up saying the infected werewolf was enraged, canceling all debuffs. Gherkin figured this dungeon experience would not be quite so simple after all. He had been putting this particular trick off, but now it was finally time. Our protagonist slowly turned the face of his watch, triggering the slot activation. Heavy armor enveloped him as he declared he was ready. This slot system is actually one of the most unique elements in Warlord. It temporarily injects a player with massive power pulled directly from this world, unlocking an incredible enhanced form. But keep in mind, these forms vary wildly. For everyone, it is incredibly personalized, which is why users call it an alt. Gherkin confidently taunted the beast with a finger, daring it to attack him. With a massive roar, the infected beast charged forward at its opponent. Gherkin smoothly dodged, throwing back quick, heavy counterattacks. The boss monster was insanely fast and strong, living up to its reputation. If it landed even 3 hits in a row, it would be game over. But Gherkin unleashed his unique abilities instead, landing a devastating strike that absolutely shattered the creature. Gherkin smiled, saying this high-stakes thrill is exactly what makes this game so fun for him. Still, the infected beast tapped into its reserves and lashed out again. Realizing it was in a full rage, Gherkin noticed his skeleton ally and jokingly asked if he forgot something. The loyal skeleton prepared to fight. Aggroing the werewolf, the summon drew all the attention away. Giving Gherkin a brief moment to breathe, he then called out to his summon to execute the combo they had practiced during training. They struck together, hitting the werewolf simultaneously from both sides. The risky maneuver worked beautifully, causing the werewolf to bleed heavily. As its body was torn apart, the game system finally declared the werewolf hunt successful, with his armor slot deactivating a new quest. Popped up near Mount Bima to clear out all remaining monsters. For a reward of 10 gold, meanwhile his skeleton warrior leveled up. From defeating such a threat, upgrading its skeleton fragment skill, Gherkin gathered the werewolf's skull and pelt while his summon stood proud. These dungeon instance rewards were honestly turning out to be pretty great. He also received the rare Necromancer's necklace, which boosts class stats and is completely untradeable. Gherkin smiled at his luck. Even if this necklace can't be traded, its tier far outclasses standard unique items. At that moment, the system announced 3 brand new titles had been registered. To our hero, promising newcomer was exactly what he had aimed for. Gherkin recognized that Infected Pathfinder was the opening title of the first chapter. This is the legendary main quest, the ultimate foundation of the entire Warlord universe. It is the absolute core storyline that every single player wants to join. Everyone is desperate to get in because the final rewards are truly legendary. It is the absolute flagship content of the game. In his past life, though, our hero barely managed to reach Chapter 4, but now he's already unlocked it. He knew this wasn't just sheer luck. Gherkin was convinced he had hit the jackpot. This was his ultimate golden ticket. Suddenly, a breaking news broadcast flashed on screen. The massive Hydra Guild was officially entering the final chapter of this scenario. Their goal was to conquer the Count's infection scenario within 3 months. Gherkin froze, pausing the broadcast on his monitor. Suddenly, things didn't look so good. This was no jackpot. Someone was already clearing the final chapter of his quest. If he tried to squeeze in now, he wouldn't get any of the prime rewards. That would be an absolute disaster. Maybe he should just skip this and wait. He could simply target the next chapter, but right then, a wild idea hit him. What if this crisis was actually the perfect opportunity in disguise? Gherkin stared unblinkingly at his screen. Right now, the entire world is watching. Everyone is obsessed with the Count's infection quest. It is Warlord's very first main quest, and it's right on the verge of completion. What would happen if he dropped an exclusive video about this quest right now? The views would absolutely skyrocket. Talk about the ultimate viral moment. His entire life would change. Luckily, our hero always makes sure to record his gameplay. He just needed to edit the footage and upload it straight to YouTube. But Gherkin knew that high-quality editing was the real key to success. You can't trust just any random editor. He needed Romani, the god of editing. He remembered her talent from his past life. Soon, she received Gherkin's message. Romani stared at the text, wondering what kind of level 15 run this was. She assumed it was just some wealthy newbie trying to show off. But the moment she pressed play, Romani literally jumped out of her chair. "This is it," she muttered. She had finally found her true creative muse. As one of the top freelance editors around, her creative spark was fully reignited. Her assistant walked into the office, asking if she had called. Romani pointed to her screen, announcing that an insane video had dropped. She handed over her tablet, showing him the footage of the Count's infection. The level 15 solo player actually managed to defeat a brutal enemy. He had soloed an infected werewolf. The assistant admitted they had seen it. But the beast's level was pretty low, so they didn't think much of it. But this mysterious girl loved it, demanding her team bring her the full source file. This was Ki Soyeon, the brilliant heir to the massive Thunder Group Corporation. In the gaming world, players knew her as the terrifying Queen of Thunder, Sira. Meanwhile, Gherkin stared at his newly uploaded video in complete disbelief. He had only uploaded it yesterday, so why were the stats doing this? Where did all these views even come from? Already over 6,000. In his past life, it would have taken forever to hit that. Months just to gather a crowd like this, but then a sudden update popped up. Romani was the very first to message him. She was famous for being cold and completely mysterious. That mysterious vibe was her brand, and she wanted to know when the next video dropped. Gherkin texted back that he was literally just brainstorming. Honestly, our hero was completely stuck. He really had no clue what he should capture for his next content piece. Finding another high-tier monster like that corrupted werewolf was not going to be easy. So our hero logged back into the game. Meanwhile, Matador Cheb was busy analyzing Gherkin's combat video. Gherkin's smooth movements in the Mask of Haho video were incredible. Still, they felt oddly familiar. Had they crossed paths somewhere before? Just then, his companion Yell walked over to him. She asked who he was watching. Cheb muttered that this trending guy seemed familiar. This guy, Gherkin from Mask of Haho, was suddenly taking over the internet. Yell teased him, saying he watched the guy so much it would be weird if he didn't recognize him. Cheb pointed out that the terrifying realism of this game usually makes absolute beginners completely freeze. But this Gherkin did not flinch once. Plus, look how he commands his ghost skeleton. That summon is on a totally different level compared to basic necromancer minions. Cheb admitted he would love a real duel, but a guy like him probably rejects random invites. Yell quickly told him to stop daydreaming. She ordered him to head inside because their big livestream was about to start in minutes. Cheb laughed, saying he appreciated the worry, though they both knew he was always ready. Yell just warned him to behave on stream and avoid doing anything embarrassing. Over 200,000 tickets sold. Talk about absolute peak hype right here. The announcer hyped up the crowd, welcoming the powerhouse leader of the Red Bulls Guild. This was the 9th-ranked expert in all of Warlord Matador Cheb. Suddenly, a notification popped up. The massive dungeon gates were finally opening, and all players had to prepare for war. Over at Figgy's castle, the Raiders Guild members were looking incredibly disappointed. There was not a single high-tier quest available anywhere, which was just completely frustrating. Our hero cursed the starter town for having such dry, useless options. He even started thinking about putting his channel updates on pause for a while. Just then, an elderly NPC approached him out of nowhere. He asked if Gherkin was indeed the brave adventurer who cleared Bima's cave. Introducing himself as Houghton, the old man politely requested a private word inside his office. Once inside, Houghton explained that he had heard the crazy rumors surrounding his achievement. Specifically about a mutated beast inside that cave, which definitely should not have been there. Gherkin nodded and confirmed he had faced a werewolf, boasting highly unusual, glowing eyes. Houghton sighed, explaining that the beast had likely been corrupted by a dark entity. Apparently, this strange power belonged to a mysterious figure known as the Distorted One. Nobody knew who this distorted figure was, but his dark magic was rapidly infecting local beasts. This corruption was causing massive trouble across the land. Because of this threat, the Raiders Guild had placed a massive bounty on his head. Gherkin immediately agreed to hunt down this villain. He promised to use all his skills to track down this dangerous, elusive target. Realizing this was a rare hidden quest, Gherkin eagerly announced he was ready to depart. But Houghton shook his head, saying it was still far too early. Instead, he wanted to give Gherkin a special opportunity to guarantee his success on this dangerous journey. The quest points to a man named Ahimri, currently residing in Bansu Castle, east of Figgy's. Houghton explains that this powerful figure can train the young mage up. To make that journey happen, Gherkin receives a very special letter of recommendation. This quest requires finding Ahimri and showing the letter. Show him the letter, and the final reward will be an incredibly rare skill book. Gherkin leaves the room, absolutely thrilled with this apprentice quest. Ahimri is one of Archmage Bogan's legendary disciples. Honestly, every magic player in this game is drooling for a chance to meet him. He is an absolute goldmine for rare skill books, making him an incredibly important figure. Gherkin knows he cannot afford to miss this massive chance. His Rising Star title and the main quest must have triggered this overlap. It was a perfect storm of luck. If things go right, his video content worries are officially over. But first, Gherkin remembers that he has some extremely important business to take care of. Heading deep into a quiet forest clearing, the young mage drops a skull onto the ground. He must activate Skeleton Fragment to sort his pending loot. First, he grabs the remaining werewolf skull that he kept instead of selling it. This special item will give his skeleton warrior a massive strength boost. The summon gains werewolf traits, drastically improving its overall durability. Next, he decides to equip the necromancer's necklace. The system confirms the necrotic pathfinder stats are officially applied. With all stats boosted, Gherkin is fully ready. He activates the skeleton fragment skill once more. 2 fresh skulls materialize in his hands, catching his summon by surprise. His loyal skeleton completely freaks out as 2 clones appear. It frantically points them out, but Gurkhan just shakes his head. From now on, all three of them must fight together and quickly get used to each other. Hearing this, the first skeleton drops to his knees in pure despair. Suddenly, a wild level 25 forest bear crashes through the woods right on cue. The beast swings a massive paw, forcing the skeletons to react. Our brave skeleton immediately lunges forward, sword in hand. But the bear swats him away, sending him flying through the air. Yep, that just happened. Did this bony warrior seriously think a direct attack would work? A smart summon should always flank the target and strike directly from its blind spot. Unbelievably, the second clone tries the exact same frontal rush. And just like his partner, he gets swatted into the dirt. Gurkhan is losing his mind because he literally just told them to flank the beast. Why repeat that failure? Luckily, the third skeleton has an actual plan. This veteran summon decides to try a completely different approach. He leaps high, copying Gurkhan's style. Gurkhan watches in surprise, but the bear just slaps him midair. The skull goes flying far into the distance, forcing the annoyed mage to step in himself. Gurkhan defeats the beast himself and dryly asks if they even have brains. It is a rhetorical question, so he sighs and lets them reassemble their fallen skulls. Now he must teach these boneheads how to actually fight. To block a hit, they have to turn right toward the oncoming attack, Gurkhan explains. That is why they must always strike directly from the enemy's blind spot. He looks at the skeleton's blank stares and sighs. Honestly, their stupid expressions annoy him, but Gurkhan still finds a silver lining. His skill rank went up, allowing him to summon 3 skeletons with his new necklace. He got it from the infected tracker, but there is a huge catch. They cannot coordinate. The summons only repeat exactly what they were originally taught. Since they never learned to fight together, teamwork is completely out of the question. He realizes he is burning through 3 times as much mana now. Yet the results are somehow even worse than before. At least he finally hit level 20, exactly as he wanted, but he has to pause. Recording content is off the table for now. He orders the skeletons up. They will train all the way to Bansu Castle. Earlier, he hoped to just let his minions do the dirty work while he kicked back like a proper necromancer. Looks like his dream of being a lazy, hands-off commander is officially over. He presses on along the forest path, heading straight toward the castle. The skeletons clatter right behind him. Welcome to the Raiders Guild in Bansu Castle. The place is packed. Tons of eager players are hanging around, desperate to score a decent quest. Suddenly, a player steps out of the office. The room falls dead silent. The crowd immediately swarms him, demanding to know what kind of quest he got. He quickly spills the details to keep the aggressive mob happy. Right then, a hooded figure walks through the door. It is Hurkan. He looks at the circling crowd and thinks they behave exactly like hungry hyenas. They are not even trying to grow stronger on their own. They just want to leech off someone else's hard work. A man approaches him. The guy tells our protagonist that if he has any good quests, he is interested. Hurkan definitely cannot let them find out he is here to see a Kimbri. He hands the guard an envelope containing a letter of recommendation from Cotton. The guard checks the seal and nods. He tells the young man to head straight up to the second floor. The other players immediately push forward, screaming that they are in his party. But the guard knight blocks them instantly. Hurkan wonders about his upcoming reward. Let's be real, a hidden quest reward has to be something pretty insane. He really hopes to build a solid, long-term relationship with this guy. The young man knocks gently, cracks the door open, and politely apologizes. Inside, the office is an absolute disaster zone. Books are scattered everywhere. The busy owner demands to know who is there. He definitely does not remember scheduling any appointments for today. It is a Kimbri. Hurkan introduces himself and mentions his official letter of recommendation from Cotton. Kimbri looks him over, noting he still looks like a basic black mage apprentice. Still, he must be pretty skilled for his low level. Hurkan modestly claims he just got lucky. A Kimbri shrugs and prepares his reward. He hands over the promised skill and ability books. Hurkan is thrilled. He just scored 2 whole skill books, and both look incredibly rare. Ahimber turns away coldly, telling him that their conversation is officially over. Ahimber declares his training is complete and commands Hurkan to pull himself together. Hurkan is completely shocked. Why did the quest end so fast? He desperately needs the next phase, since he did not struggle just to get Some basic low-level skills. He shouts that he is ready to do absolutely anything for a new quest. Ahimber turns back and grabs Gherkin by the hand, asking if he is truly prepared to do whatever it takes. The mentor thanks him as a new quest appears. Pops up, ordering him to steal a single egg directly from its nest. But there is zero reward for it, leaving Gherkin absolutely fuming at this trickster. He got played. Suddenly, the players part as a majestic knight walks down. Everyone instantly notices his incredibly high tier and expensive armor. He is clearly an elite, and he demands to know the location of that infamous Haho mask. Meanwhile, Gherkin stomps out of the office deeply irritated that a simple system character managed to completely outsmart him. He expected a main scenario quest, but instead he is running a tedious chore with literally no payout waiting for him. Gherkin is incredibly annoyed by this situation, but suddenly another player blocks his way and approaches him. The stranger asks if he got a special quest, immediately drawing a crowd. Nearby players swarm Gherkin, shouting that he has an active hidden quest. Suddenly, a deep voice yells out, commanding the crowd to step aside. The majestic knight pushes through the onlookers and walks straight up to Gherkin. He asks Gherkin if he has a quick minute to discuss something privately. Gherkin is taken aback, wondering who this heavily geared high ranker actually is. He tells the guy to beat it, but the knight addresses him as Mr. Haho. After moving to a quiet alley, the knight politely apologizes for the interruption. He opens up his interface, quickly blocking any spectators from viewing their chat. He explains they cannot talk properly with so many noisy players surrounding them. Gherkin analyzes his gear, realizing this guy is definitely an elite high ranker. Still, he cannot place his face, so he demands to know his identity. The ranker smiles, asking if the famous Haho mask is standing right there. Gherkin knows that when confronted like this, playing dumb is always the best option. He casually asks what on earth a Haho mask even is. He only followed along to hear him out, but now he is completely lost. The knight chuckles, pointing out that Gherkin just accepted a hidden quest. He knows for a fact that the quest came directly from Ahimber. There is no denying the facts, which makes Gherkin incredibly annoyed and defensive. He demands to know why he must share his private information. He asks if this pushy player is looking to start a fight. If he keeps poking around, he will regret messing with the wrong person. Even without knowing his identity, Gherkin decides to keep acting completely clueless. He is genuinely curious to see what this high-ranking player does next. The knight suddenly bows deeply, offering a hand and a polite apology. He admits he made a mistake, so Gherkin shakes his hand in agreement. Believing the ranker got intimidated, Gherkin turns around and walks away. He decided to let him off the hook, realizing this young challenger was practically begging for a fight. Then a girl appeared. She suggested this target wasn't the one. The young man scoffed, confidently saying the guy was nothing more than a total newbie. If he actually played Warlord, he'd know not to flash his system watch like that. Showing it for even a second is reckless, she muttered, asking if they really had to track him. Why monitor Akimbri's quests when the infection count is practically finished? Even if some random player interferes now, they can't change the outcome anyway. Besides, she added, securing that egg from the nest was their actual primary objective. They couldn't afford any risks, so the two split up, planning to meet again. Meanwhile, our hero quietly observed their entire conversation from a window right next door. Watching them, Gherkin realized they were working in tandem as part of a group. They surely belonged to some kind of shady organization. What is their goal? A normal guild would have just approached him openly. They would have offered a proper deal, but this was no routine check. Was this just how they operated? Gherkin knew he had to figure this out alone. But for now, he had to keep his eyes open and stay constantly on guard. While training his skeleton soldiers, Gherkin realized one crucial thing for sure. That egg quest was far from a simple, run-of-the-mill mission. The mystery was deepening, and he guessed they might have seen his YouTube video. They clearly knew that the legendary Haho mask had been delivered to Akimbri. If they let him walk away so easily, they probably didn't even care about the mask. Gherkin still had no idea what kind of chaos was brewing around him. But if he keeps pushing forward, he's bound to clash with them again soon, so watch closely. So Gherkin decided to pause his video uploads. Gherkin was incredibly annoyed by all the constant drama. Why did crazy people always find a way to mess with his life? Dealing with Xiaoyang alone was already taking up all of his energy. Meanwhile, she was entirely focused on her intense training inside the game. Her personal secretary, Park Sujai, watched in awe and praised her flawless execution. She then asked how the latest guild entrance exams had turned out. Xiaoyang pulled off her helmet, sighing that the candidates were all complete trash. She couldn't believe there wasn't a single decent player in the whole bunch. The secretary quickly agreed, before Xiaoyang asked if there was any news on the Haho mask. Park Sujai guessed that the person behind the video must have already joined a guild. Otherwise, they definitely would have responded to their recruitment offers by now. Xiaoyang's anger flared instantly at the mere thought of her target joining rivals. Terrified, Park Sujai stammered that she would double-check, admitting it was just a guess. Xiaoyang snapped back, demanding hard facts instead of useless theories. She then asked about the president, but Park Sujai confirmed he remained completely silent. Xiaoyang knew he would stay quiet as long as she was performing well in Warlord. She bitterly recalled how he had nearly forced her into a marriage because of it. Shaking it off, Xiaoyang ordered the secretary to reopen the guild recruitment. She wanted a complete progress report ready on her desk by tomorrow morning. With that, Xiaoyang swept out of the room, leaving her assistant in a panic. Tomorrow morning felt way too far away when dealing with such a short-tempered boss. Reaching the lizard swamp, Hurkan realized he had not set foot here in ages. Kimbri was holed up inside Bonsu Castle. Hurkan was absolutely sure. That meant his current quest had to be done in the surrounding area. Since he needed to find an egg, it could belong to a bird, reptile, or insect, excluding all the high-level zones currently locked off to him. That left the lizard swamp as his only real option. So Hurkan decided to start his search right here. If this place turned up empty, he would just move on to another region. He warned his skeleton warrior that the local beasts here were much tougher. It was time to power up using every single tool he had. He granted his summon the Helm of Madness by carving symbols onto its skull. He cast the spell, and even Hurkan was stunned by what happened next. Fiery horns erupted from the skull, prompting Hurkan to order a quick test. He commanded the skeleton to attack him, and its eyes immediately flared red. Hurkan struck a quick blow, knocking the skull right off. The bony head went flying, far into the distance. Hurkan wondered what on earth had got into his usually loyal minion. How could a summon turn on its own master with such intense rage? Honestly, there was no other explanation. It had to be a system glitch. It clearly was not intentional, but did that mean its skills were bugged too? Right on cue, a level 30 lizard man burst out of the dense woods. Talk about perfect timing, now they could finally test this new power. He activated the Helm of Madness and equipped his summon with bone armor. Hurkan ordered his crazed skeletons to charge and obliterate the incoming enemy. The clash was absolutely chaotic, but the beasts were quickly torn to shreds. A system alert confirmed that his skeletons had taken down 3 lizard men. Massive experience points flooded in, triggering a very welcome level up for Hurkan. He told his summons they would spend the next week grinding and searching. If that egg did not turn up, they would have to search elsewhere. Just then, a young girl stepped into the clearing, introducing herself as Ilya. Now Ilya was fully convinced that her unmatched beauty was obvious to everyone. She hated to brag, but facts were facts, and there was no denying it. No matter what she did, people just naturally fell head over heels. Life was absolutely perfect, and she knew she would always get her way. If trouble ever came, her servants would save her, but then her foot slipped. She faceplanted directly into the disgusting mud, lifting her head in pure shock. This nasty swamp made her utterly sick, reminding her of a false promise. Her servant had promised this area would be an easy leveling spot. He told her to just follow him, but then disaster struck the guide. The young man ended up dead, leaving her completely stranded in this nightmare. Terrified to take a step, she desperately needed a slave, then spotted someone. A young man nearby was easily taking down monsters with his skeleton summons. Ilya immediately decided he would make a perfect new slave to rescue her. She ran out from behind her hiding spot, but quickly twisted her ankle. Collapsing to the ground, she desperately cried out for him to help. The girl sniffs and whimpers, claiming she cannot walk another step. Ilya assumes the young man's heart must be breaking as he watches her suffer. Surely he cannot resist. She feels absolutely certain he will jump to help. But instead of offering his hand, Hurkan simply turns around and starts walking away. Ilya stares in disbelief. How could anyone ignore a gorgeous girl in distress like this? Desperate to stop him, she yells out for the handsome necromancer to wait. Hurkan knows trouble when he smells it. Ilya fumes, absolutely shocked that he dared ignore her. Gherkin just keeps watching his skeletons tear through the nearby monsters. Still, she keeps up the act, crying out that she is in terrible pain. Honestly, it is really starting to get on his nerves. Why must she be so incredibly annoying? He keeps walking to avoid wasting precious time. But she refuses to stop, dragging up some highly unpleasant memories for him. Why cannot people just play the game normally? Deciding to put an end to this annoying drama, Gherkin turns and asks what she wants. Ilya quickly claims she accidentally dropped her sword in the swamp while hunting. She begs the young necromancer to help her get it back. Gherkin warns her to leave him alone for good once he retrieves the weapon. The girl eagerly promises, showering him with early thanks and sweet words of gratitude. Inside, Ilya smirks, thinking the naive guy fell right into her trap. Soon, Gherkin spots the sword handle sticking out of a small, muddy island ahead. He points it out and Ilya gasps, thanking him while playing the helpless victim. Keep your word, Gherkin coldly tells her to leave him alone now. He will get the sword, then she must leave. With that, Gherkin commands his minions. Gherkin orders his skeletons to march into the swamp to fetch the weapon. Ilya silently laughs, believing necromancers are completely useless without their undead puppets. Since his back is turned and he seems defenseless, she decides to strike. Expecting this move, our hero spins around and grabs the girl by her collar. With effortless strength, he lifts her high and hurls her straight toward that sword. She splashes face first into the filthy muck, immediately screaming filthy curses at him. Shouting insults, Ilya vows she will make him pay dearly for this disrespect. She threatens that her army of loyal fans will tear him apart in seconds. Gherkin laughs and casually points out the massive danger lurking right behind her. Ilya looks up and freezes as giant lizard monsters tower over her. Gherkin calmly remarks that she should have put more effort into her acting. He can read cheap, manipulative schemers like an open book. Our hero has dealt with too many liars to fall for these tricks. Calling her a total waste of time, Gherkin orders his skeletons to move out. Glancing back, he notices one of his undead minions acting extremely strange. Unbelievably, the silly skeleton is actually trying to mimic her cheap seduction techniques. Gherkin warns his summons to stop learning useless tricks before he smashes their bones. Suddenly, a system notification pops up, confirming player Ilya has been eliminated. He even gets reward points, which is a pretty nice surprise. Since he did not even touch her, Gherkin recalls her stupid revenge threats. Could anyone actually be a dedicated fan of such an annoying person? Apparently, yes, the world is full of fools like her. They watched the scene through surveillance cameras. Suddenly, one of her fans lunged to attack Gherkin, claiming he had to avenge Miss Ilya, but the strike instantly failed. Gherkin had a question: why go this far for some girl? What did this guy actually expect to gain from this? Even with revenge, did he really believe she would date him? Honestly, why is this fan so obsessed with a girl from a game he had never even seen in real life? The fan screamed it was love. Hurkan swung his blade. That was absolutely ridiculous. That manipulative, crazy girl had tried to trick him, and she paid the ultimate price. Our hero never expected her tearful sob story to cause this much chaos. The girl had lied to her fans, crying that she only asked a man for help. Instead, this evil necromancer attacked her out of nowhere. Her loyal fans wept and were ready to take brutal vengeance on anyone because of that. A mob of obsessed players hunted Gherkin daily. He was already stressed. Since he could not track down the egg, now armed thugs chased him. Suddenly, the system alert popped up. He looted an abandoned war watch. The item was taken directly from dead Ilya's corpse. Then, the system added 5,000 gold coins and a pair of goblin leather boots to his inventory. He even scored a super rare item, the Necklace of Promise. This piece would sell for a small fortune. Gherkin immediately praised the goddess. Love is awesome. He actually thanked that crazy woman. Suddenly, another stalker spotted him, screaming that he found Ilya's killer. Dozens of armed players flooded the clearing, calling themselves her loyal protectors. Gherkin admitted he was indeed the one who ended her life, but unfortunately, there were way too many of them and more kept showing up. He decided his best option was to run. His skeletons trailed behind as he wondered, did she seriously have this many followers? He ordered his skeletons to get to work, sending them back to block the pursuers. 1. Summon tried activating a magic of love skill, only to get instantly obliterated. Hurkan angrily yelled that no such skill existed. Next, the system. Alerts confirmed his warrior was destroyed. Talk about brutal, these players were way stronger than he initially thought. Still, Gherkin kept sprinting, screaming that once he leveled up, he would make them all pay. He hid deep in the forest, but he simply could not shake off these players because of the level gap, but he had to keep moving. Gherkin finally stopped, looking around this highly suspicious area. This swamp was different. He could not recall it from his past life. He had never seen bizarre colors like this. Soon, the mob entered the clearing, wondering why this necromancer was so fast. Where did he go? Suddenly, one pursuer spotted Gherkin's skeletons. They were strangely dancing on the shifting, dangerous mud. This enraged a fan who cursed Gherkin as a wicked sorcerer. He had not only killed their beloved Lady Ilya, but he ignored them completely. A heavyset warrior screamed that he would never forgive this, thrusting his sword and charged directly at the skeletons, but as they rushed forward, frozen terror gripped them. A massive monster materialized overhead, completely catching the young man off guard. What was happening here? Where did this beast come from? It was none other than a swamp dragon. With one quick whip of its massive tongue, it snatched up a fan and swallowed him whole. The level 40 swamp dragon was a terrifying boss monster. The swamp lizard, absolutely terrified, the fans decided they had to escape right away. Gherkin was crouched behind a nearby tree, watching in silence. He would never have expected to run into a legendary boss monster like this. Its nest had to be somewhere close by. This creature was a raid boss with a monstrous health bar, insane defense, and devastating attacks. A raid on this dragon normally demands at least 20 level 40 players, and even then, victory is highly unlikely. Word was that a raid on this exact boss had just wrapped up. So this dragon shouldn't be here, but if a player enters the boss zone carrying the right quest, the monster respawns shortly after its defeat. That meant if the boss was active again. Kimbri's questline started in this very spot. Gherkin was stunned. Had Kimbri seriously sent him to take down this massive beast and retrieve its egg when he was only level 20? Gherkin knew that was totally impossible. Why pull a stunt like that? Fortunately for him, he had already managed to gather a decent team. So maybe he had a chance. Nearby, one of the fans screamed that they couldn't possibly survive a fight with the dragon. They had to run. Gherkin couldn't allow that, so he quickly summoned his skeletons and ordered them to block their escape path. Realizing they were trapped, the fans knew there was no going back. They had to fight for their lives. The dragon swung its massive tail, sending one poor guy flying into the air. The panicked survivors quickly realized this beast was not going to let them escape. Meanwhile, someone spotted the necromancer slipping away amidst the absolute chaos. Gherkin offered them a silent thanks for their unwitting sacrifice, promising never to forget it. He decided this distraction was his golden ticket to search the dragon's lair. Slipping inside, he looked around, but the nest was completely empty. Gherkin frantically began searching every corner, knowing the quest item had to be hidden nearby. Soon, he found a bizarre rock-like artifact pulsing with a strange, glowing crest. Gherkin stared, pondering the possibilities. Could this weird thing actually be the egg? It was definitely highly suspicious, though it felt far more like a solid rock. Just then, a system alert flashed, warning him his summon had been destroyed. The dragon knew someone was in its nest and was charging back. Time had completely run out. Erupting with pure fury, the beast glared around, scanning for any sign of the thief. Gherkin dove behind a rocky wall just in time to escape its deadly gaze. He had narrowly avoided instant death. Gherkin realized searching the lair with a rampaging dragon around was suicide. He had to grab the strange artifact and run, even if it wasn't the actual egg. Meanwhile, back in the muddy swamp, the poor distraction squad of fans had been completely annihilated. Fallen bodies littered the damp ground. Gherkin carefully approached one of the survivors, noticing a flashing device on his wrist, and knelt beside him. He muttered in absolute shock, could this guy actually still be breathing? Hurkan always thought Warlord was a pretty fascinating game. Naturally, with that insane level of freedom, you always encounter total weirdos. He snatched the watch off the groaning man's wrist. The injured guy looked up, crying out loudly. Hurkan instantly slammed his massive blade straight into the hard dirt right in front of him. He wanted to make one thing crystal clear. He tolerated these pests for long enough, but now his life depended on this. Very game, he warned them only once, do not stand in his way. After that, Gherkin leaped across the swamp, stepping from body to cross. If they kept chasing him after this, they would deeply regret it later on. Honestly, who can blame him? It was time to make some serious money. He discovered a massive swamp dragon's lair, and selling its location would fetch at least 100,000 gold coins. Gherkin dropped a strange item on a Himbri's table and asked if this was what the mage wanted. He secretly hoped this weird item was indeed the legendary egg. He really did not want to search the entire map all over again. A Himbri inspected the object thoroughly. After a moment, the mage smiled, confirming that this was exactly what he was looking for. The young adventurer had done an outstanding job. A Himbri added that he completed the quest much faster than expected. The mage assumed someone like him would require days. Gherkin wondered why this strange character had even given him this specific assignment. He told the mage he gave it his all and wanted the next quest. Himbri paused, asking if the young man actually knew what this was. Whenever people explored the nests of mutated monsters, they always stumbled upon these. He explained that they are called contagion stones. Wait, things are starting to click. He realized why those two were stalking him. The stone was a crucial item for the main quest, and they wanted to ensure no other competitors interfered with their own progress. A Himbri sighed, offering an unexpected apology. He knew this difficult task was quite a heavy burden. But all true adventurers must eventually confront some terrifying, unknown force. This was a necessary test of his willpower. The mage asked if Gherkin was truly prepared to battle the plague. His answer was a firm yes. Joining the main storyline was a massive opportunity. Himbri warned him once more about how incredibly powerful the monsters were. Still, he avoided giving impossible tasks to promising newcomers. Gherkin wondered if his current level was just too low to proceed. Himbri smiled, saying if he begged the great mage to train him, the old man would happily agree. Gritting his teeth, Gherkin walked away. A system alert announced he completed the egg retrieval quest, unlocking a brand new training scenario under a Himbri. Our hero was forced to accept, but he was secretly furious at this incredibly arrogant, smug fellow. Elsewhere, the battle concluded. The active players knew they did a pretty fantastic job clearing out those bloodthirsty monsters. One fighter turned to his captain, bragging that their guild had finally accomplished something legendary. The captain agreed, granting the team some well-deserved rest. He then thanked a quiet young man, admitting he was far more powerful than anyone expected. Wiping his bloody hands, Helper casually replied that it was honestly no big deal. Helper casually points out that the squad did almost all the heavy lifting without him. Yet the captain knows that without his guidance, casualties were guaranteed. Thanks to him, they made it through without losing a single man. Thrilled with his investment, the captain hands over a heavy sack of gold. But Helper immediately waves it away, reminding him of their actual deal. The captain explains it is just a bonus, but the young man refuses. He will not break their contract, leaving the squad leader completely stunned. Why reject free cash? Isn't that the whole point of being a mercenary? It feels pretty suspicious for a top-tier ranker to join a low-level raid. Who is this guy? Unbothered, Helper demands only what they agreed on. He is taking his prize from the nest, despite the squad's warnings. They insist the nest is empty, but Helper has already tuned them out. He thinks he hit the jackpot. A perfect chance has finally arrived. He is here for the Stone of Contagion, but the dragon's return worries him. If the swamp dragon is alive, then Haho's mask must have failed. If the beast still breathes, then Haho's quest was a total failure. Defeating a high-level boss with basic summons is pretty much impossible. Once he grabs the Stone of Contagion, Haho's quest will be ruined forever. But when he checks the nest, he freezes in utter disappointment. It is empty. Someone beat him to the punch. Meanwhile, Gherkin checks his phone. The moment he has been waiting for is finally here. All those painful days of telling himself to just hold on a bit longer. His patience has finally paid off. It is time to end his suffering. He is going to make a massive change right now. He is doing it. He is ordering real beef tonight. Talk about a major upgrade. He starved himself to save cash, but securing the main quest changes everything. Now that he has some actual earnings, he deserves a small reward. He quickly initiates the cash-out process to transfer the funds. The second the money hits, automatic bill payments drain his account instantly. His balance drops to zero. That beef dinner is officially canceled. Devastated, he stares at his phone, all that brutal grind for absolutely nothing. Right then, Romany texts him, asking if he really quit WTube. Gherkin realizes he totally forgot to keep her updated on the situation. Filming is impossible right now because multiple factions are hunting him down. Why fear a bunch of random players when he is literally starving? He is just a player trying to survive and enjoy the game mechanics. Gherkin is done playing nice. He's going to do whatever he wants. Surrounded by his loyal skeleton squad, he heads straight into the graveyard. A dark system notification pops up. He has officially entered the Forest of Doom. Honestly, this spooky place gives him the creeps every single time. But he has to admit, the horror vibe makes for some pretty epic content. More importantly, this graveyard is an absolute goldmine for easy experience points. He turns to his undead crew with a grin on his face. Time to hunt, but first, they need to welcome their newest recruit. It is time to add some serious magic power to their strategy. Along with a brand new skeleton, it was a skeleton mage possessing a skill. From a Kimbri, higher skill levels meant more advanced magic spells. The skeleton mage would be able to cast. Gherkin noted the skill was pretty cool. But it also devoured a ton of mana. He announced that today they would be hunting a level 33 skeleton. His summoned skeletons looked completely puzzled, but Gherkin repeated that this was indeed their target. The young man asked why they were standing around. They needed to charge and defeat this enemy. Gherkin added that they would soon understand. Undead are different from ordinary monsters. Even so, the summoned skeletons hid behind trees, way too terrified to even stick their skulls out. Gherkin was surprised. What on earth was going on here to stop them from wasting time? They had to move. They had a packed schedule and needed to battle immediately. But the enemy actually frightened his summons. Gherkin realized that standard attacks simply wouldn't work. That was when he activated his rare mage's hammer. Gherkin smashed the enemy with the weapon, sending it flying far to the side. He muttered that it was a pretty solid hit. Then he added that the enemy really needed to have its head knocked off entirely. His summons were terrified, literally clutching their skulls. Gherkin then explained today's main objective. They had to destroy 100 skeletons in 100 minutes. Gherkin warned that if they failed, he'd leave them here to rot. After those harsh words, the task was completed. Gherkin smiled and said the job had been done splendidly. He originally thought his skeletons would need more time to master their weapons, but they actually handled the unfamiliar gear much better than expected. This wild battle of bones and sticks was incredibly effective. The video was finally ready. All that remained was contacting Romany. Suddenly, a massive skeleton materialized. It was a level 35 skeleton warrior. Gherkin realized it was a rare monster that randomly spawned in this spot. He immediately ordered his summons to attack, treating it like a guaranteed source of prime beef. To cook steaks, which is better, frying or baking? Gherkin even wondered if a nice stew would work too. But wait, this was actually pretty terrifying. He hadn't even done much yet, but almost got himself killed. Fortunately, his very first target was the monster's arm. Now it couldn't easily strike back. Gherkin activated his hammer, eager to test out his bone crusher. Swinging the heavy weapon, our hero charged directly at his massive opponent. The task was completed without a scratch on his summons. Gherkin remarked that the battle was way easier than expected. Suddenly, a massive tongue of flame erupted. Gherkin noted that their new opponent was quite impatient. This fire-wielding skeleton mage put up a pretty decent fight. Then, the system announced that the elite monster was defeated, granting them a solid chunk of experience. Gherkin figured this spectacular footage should get at least 10,000 views. His appetite was fully whetted, making him crave some freshly grilled beef. Just then, the system warned that the area's boss had sensed his subordinate's death, detected their presence, and was now awakening. A towering boss wearing a golden crown materialized right before Gherkin and his army, but the young man felt completely disheartened upon realizing exactly what kind of boss they were facing. A level 40 Golden Lick, the absolute ruler of the Forest of the Dead. This top-tier magical powerhouse obliterates every single living thing in its path. It is a monstrous boss, widely feared as the ultimate bane of new players. To wake it up, someone had to destroy countless skeletons first. Gherkin had not even considered that. There was absolutely no guarantee of survival. Defeating it seemed nearly impossible, but the rewards would be absolutely massive. His plan was pretty straightforward: buff his own skeleton minions to their absolute limit. That might just work, but suddenly, his summons vanished into thin air. His mana had completely bottomed out. Jurkin stared in total disbelief. He realized he had summoned 4 skeletons and pushed his skeleton mage too hard. No wonder his energy reserves had drained in the blink of an eye. Left with no other choice, he knew he had to handle this himself. It was time to join the fray before his combat skills got completely rusty. Equipping his gear, Jurkin braced himself and prepared for a direct assault. Everything now rested on his shoulders. He charged straight toward the boss. "Let the dance begin," he muttered, as a brutal clash instantly erupted. He quickly realized why they called this monster the ultimate newbie killer. If he kept playing defense, he was going to get crushed. The lick kept pressing forward. Jurkin swung his hammer. He only had one option left. He had to bring it down by targeting the monster's skeletal arms first. Without those arms, the beast would not be able to cast its deadly spells. He decided to tear those limbs off one by one, but the lick was relentless. It unleashed a volley of magical blasts, sending dark energy surging everywhere. The chaotic storm of spells kept Jurkin from finding a clean opening. The localized dark energy was growing thicker by the second. Jurkin quickly backed away. He tried to get clear of the impact zone, but a massive explosion erupted. The violent shockwave sent him flying forward, completely throwing off his balance. He had never faced a fight this brutal. One wrong move now, and it would be game over. This golden lick clearly had hidden skills, or maybe it received a balance patch. He really could not tell. He just did not have enough information. He had not fought these types of monsters in about 2 years. With his skeleton minions completely out of commission, he was flying totally blind. How on earth was he supposed to defeat this monster? He resolved to throw everything he had at it. Something had to stick. He was starting to read the lick's movements and dodge its magic. But finding a safe opening to strike back was proving nearly impossible. Then a split-second miscalculation landed him straight in the monster's grasp. Talk about a worst-case scenario. He was caught dead in its freezing grip. Jurkin wondered just how many hidden tricks this boss still had left. He needed to break free immediately. He triggered his special curse skill. Demon's Curse. The lick's attributes plummeted, creating a sudden opening. Stripped of its momentum, the massive lick lost its balance and collapsed backward. Jurkin did not hesitate for a second, launching an immediate strike. The blow landed perfectly, shattering a piece of the golden skull. Shattered by the impact, Jurkin was sure the dungeon boss had fallen. The system soon confirmed the golden lick was finally destroyed. Experience points rolled in alongside the Skeleton Slayer title. Deactivating his slot, Jurkin admitted he nearly lost this fight. Still, he hit level 36, boosting his strength and stamina stats. But pushing like this is too risky. Reckless grinding like this would quickly destroy his health. Rapid leveling and gaming knowledge saved him before, but things are different. New skills mean a huge demand for mana, despite his strong skeletons. But what is the point of a strong army if he cannot keep them summoned? He has already earned every single mana title he can. Now he needs better gear, but his pockets are currently completely empty. For now, he decides to send the video file off for editing. His editor Romani stares at her paused screen in complete disbelief. She replays the epic battle on loop, completely stunned by his skill. This player is insane. He did not just beat a high-level boss. He cleared the entire fight without taking a single hit. Seriously, pulling this off with zero practice is pure genius. The raw footage is so good it barely needs any editing. A quick preview and thumbnail, and it is ready to publish. She officially decides to call him the king of solo leveling. Back at the Bansu Castle Raider Association, Jurkin returns. The mage Akimbri stares, utterly stunned by the young man. Wondering what den he crawled out of, he hears Jurkin demand his reward. Akimbri confirms the reward is waiting and hands him a quest book. The system announces that the Skeletalist skill book is his. Hurkan instantly realizes he is holding an ultra-rare necromancer skill. This priceless treasure is exactly what he needs to save mana. Kimbri also presents him with the rare Ring of Contagion. It was forged using his Contagion Stone. This accessory is a highly unique item with special properties. Jurkin recognizes it as a legendary questline reward. Usually only the first players to complete the main quest win this. Suddenly, the old mage says he cannot just give it away. He challenges the young man to try and catch him first. Annoyed by this, Hurkan tells the old man to start running. Chasing him outside the city, Hurkan pauses in deep thought. This old mage is definitely crazy. If he were not an NPC, someone would have ended him long ago. Still, our hero manages to grab the ring and the next quest. Kimbri explains that he suddenly lost contact with his secret agent, Miggy. He wants Hurkan to visit Suryu Castle, and the youth agrees. But traveling to Suryu Castle at a low level is suicide. He must level up on the way. Just then, Romani messages him. She just uploaded his epic lick battle to WTube, urging him to check. Carving it out for himself, his latest video is already pulling in over 2 million views. Hurkan stares intently at his bank account balance, unable to look away. An 80 balance flashes on his screen. Is this real life or a dream? He can barely contain his excitement. Tomahawk steaks, ribeyes, filet mignon, strip loins. Hurkan can't believe his crazy luck. He can finally buy whatever he wants. He just hit the ultimate jackpot. Deep down, he knew his video would blow up. But this massive reception is beyond his wildest expectations. He realizes he can't celebrate yet and decides to log out. Suddenly, the connection cuts and a new notification pops up. He reads the text, a recruitment offer from the elite Stormhunter Guild. That is where Shur, the Storm Queen, is currently a core member. In his past life, they never gave him a chance. Now, she wants him on her squad. Hurkan smiles. History is repeating itself. They are begging him to join again, but he makes his stance clear. No way. He will never join the Stormhunters. He said those exact words back then. He used to wonder why Shur was so incredibly persistent with him. She kept chasing him despite constant rejections and his membership in another guild. But regular players think it is amazing. After all, the Stormhunters are elite. Sitting comfortably in the top 30 guilds globally, their leader is a wealthy heiress. Joining them practically guarantees an insane salary. It makes perfect sense that they want talent. Even Mathador agrees that this solo player is insanely talented. Every trending video features his legendary clips, showering the guy with endless praise. But Hurkan does not care about a massive salary. He will absolutely never join the Stormhunter Guild. Once he builds his own brand, he will make a fortune solo. He refuses to abandon the grand journey he just started. He is ready to grind for his own success. Back then, they stabbed him in the back. But that betrayal taught him a lesson. Pocket change is not what matters now. He has endless work ahead, and celebrating small victories is a waste of time. Every single coin he earns now will fund his much grander, ultimate goals. Turning back to his summoned skeletons, he reminds them of their solo boss kill. He explains that to conquer the world, they must push past their limits. The undead army needs rigorous training. They have to grow much stronger. He will never let the tragedy of his past life repeat itself. Seeing the exhaustion, his skeletons seem to silently ask for a tiny break. Do they truly need to push this hard? Yes, because they must keep up. Hurkan vows that this time, things will be completely different. They will rise to the very top. He reveals their next target. Suryu Castle. They are going to train intensely during the journey. The regiment is simple. They are going to run the entire way. Brandishing his heavy club, he warns them that whoever collapses picks up their own bones. With a wild grin, he charges at them. The terrified skeletons immediately flee in panic. Elsewhere, a guild member speaks to Shur, who sits casually atop a mountain of slain boss monsters, lost in deep thought. Hatch, their elite mage, approaches to remind her of the upcoming guild meeting. Shur leaps down gracefully, immediately asking for updates on the Plague Quest investigation. Nothing new yet, Hatch replied, as they still had not found the key for the next quest. Shur could not believe that Hydra started the main quest line before them. It was incredibly humiliating. Hatch promised everything would work out soon. After all, they were heading to a meeting with the leaders of the top 30 guilds. Hatch warned his leader to stay careful, and speaking of crazy moves, his solo leveling video racked up over 2 million views, a massive hit. In one night, Hurkan earned a life-changing amount of cash, but things did not go as planned. The young man thought his dream was finally within reach, believing he could afford almost anything, but staying calm was incredibly tough. Yet thanks to the people who pushed him to this point, a thirst for revenge ignited, driving him to take drastic action. Where to start, Gherkin announced. That he brought enough cash to pay off the entire principal amount, including all the interest. Gherkin handed over the thick stacks of cash, stating that everything was settled, his massive debt was officially paid. Next up was buying rare skill books. Just like that, Gherkin was completely broke again. His balance hit zero. He thought he was ready for this, but the empty. While it was almost physically painful, at least his skeletons were understanding. Gherkin decided to distract himself by testing the brand new skills he had just acquired. The system announced that the player had mastered skin sculpting, a pretty wild passive skill that strengthens his body by attaching monster remains directly to his skin. Gherkin could not wait to test this defense. He chose to use the skeleton warrior's horn for reinforcement. Instantly, the system confirmed that the player gained the traits of a skeleton warrior. His defense shot up, a glowing energy sword manifested in his hand. Swings of the blade proved its incredible power. His skeletons looked terrified. Gherkin grinned, calling it magnificent, even better than he had expected. The system then announced he had mastered the Curse of Sloth skill, a debuff that heavily slows down speed. Gherkin tested it on one of his skeletons, smiling as he realized how handy this would be. Finally, he checked out Summon Golem. This was the exact spell Gherkin wanted most, and it was tough to get. Suddenly, the ground rumbled, and nearby rocks shifted. Gherkin whispered that he had finally done it. A massive stone golem towered there. Talk about a terrifying sight. Even for a skilled necromancer, golems are essential. This big guy was clearly going to be tougher than any normal tank. Gherkin commanded the golem to turn on copy mode, forcing it to mimic him. He raised a fist to strike, and the giant beast matched him perfectly. Gherkin noted that this copy mode allowed them to synchronize their movements perfectly. Combining the construct's sheer strength with his own would be devastating. Gherkin unleashed a swift shadow strike, but the copy failed. The golem did not budge at all, leaving him totally baffled. What went wrong? Gherkin grew frustrated. Why was copy mode failing? He began complaining loudly that this had to be some kind of glitch. Soon, the giant golem copied Gherkin's slow movements, leaving the protagonist completely discouraged. Was this painfully slow crawl really his limit? The golem moved with supreme confidence, yet was painfully slow. Gherkin wondered what he was supposed to do with this sluggish monster and how to use it. Frustrated, the young man clutched his head, screaming that this was a very bad game. Before the golem mocked his movements once more, the chairwoman spoke. The meeting begins as soon as everyone is seated. Nurgle, head of the Ares Guild, thanked them all for showing up despite their crazy schedules. Matador Cheb just laughed and pointed out some familiar faces. First up, the Red Bulls Guild leader Berg, boss of the Fang Guild, was also there, alongside the Queen of Thunder, Ciri, leader of the Thunder Hunters Guild, who attended. Berg noted that out of 29 invited, only 4 showed up. What a joke. Matador replied that this was already too many for everyone to gather. Something crazy must be happening. Usually the top 30 warlord guilds are at each other's throats. Nurgle said no need exists for massive meetings, but the fact remained that the Hydra Guild tracked down the infected count, planning a massive boss raid. 1 month, Matador said this news was enough to drive anyone mad. The others had not even come close. If this was true, Hydra would pull off a massive raid. Berg was furious, yelling that everything would be over if they let Hydra get the count first. The main storyline would fall into their hands immediately, and they would take every single sponsor. Ciri told Berg to shut up. If he was scared of competing, he should go hide instead of making her mad. Berg snapped back at Ciri. Did she want to die? Matador told them to chill. They were not here to fight. Nurgle agreed, siding with Matador. These petty fights only help Hydra. Nurgle suggested they unite. The 4 legendary guilds gathered here to sign a temporary non-aggression pact until the quest of the infected count is fully resolved. They will share all critical information about this quest in their possession. Matador admitted he hated alliances, but they had absolutely no other choice. If they did not stand in Hydra's way, absolutely nobody would. Afterward, Ciri stood in the shower, thinking this whole deal was a disgrace. They could not even defeat the first boss without relying on rival guilds. Forced to band together, she knew they had no other option. Letting them clear the main storyline first would mean a complete and total disaster. Ciri knew she had to bite the bullet and wait for the right opportunity. she quickly called and gave strict orders to her guild. Watch Hydra like absolute hawks and report any strange behavior immediately, Siri commanded. Stating that the infected count must be theirs at any cost, the raider. Association's Bansu Castle branch, where Gherkin was stunned to hear the shocking news, his contact reiterated, demanding that he head straight to the Bobaru forest. An agent named Miggy went missing there, and they needed a thorough search for clues. Gherkin noted that Bobaru forest was packed with level 70 monsters ruled there, making it a terrifyingly dangerous zone. Step inside and survival was basically zero, which was exactly why the master chose him. If Gherkin refused this suicide mission, he would lose his status as a plague seeker. Remembering that conversation, Gherkin felt completely trapped. He was furious. What could he even do? His next task was to search for Miggy. Gherkin had to track down the missing agent, Miggy, who had vanished while hunting the Stones of Contagion, then finish his job. If he lost his Plague Seeker title, he would be booted right out of the main story. Why did things have to be so damn complicated? Gherkin realized he had bitten off far more than he could chew with this main quest. Getting involved in the main quest was proving to be nothing but trouble. Under normal circumstances, a low-level novice would have failed these impossible tasks instantly. Yet somehow, by some sheer miracle, he had managed to scrape by. Now he faced the absolute worst task yet, entering the Bubaru forest. This was a level 60 nightmare with a ruthless instant death penalty. Gherkin was completely stuck, unable to simply reject the main quest. He asked his companion if the elite Hydra guild could clear it. Even the top-ranked guilds were having a miserable time trying to unlock it. If the infected count got defeated, what would happen to everyone else's progress? In the end, Gherkin realized he had to face the forest himself. Meanwhile, scouts watching the Count's castle through binoculars saw absolutely nothing. Everything was perfectly quiet, meaning their boring stakeout was finally wrapping up. Staring at the same walls for hours, every day was driving them insane. Nettle, the 8th commander of Hydra, kept adjusting his heavy lenses. He kept wondering what massive rewards they would get for the Count's head. That legendary kill would easily secure Hydra the top spot in the rankings. But Nettle quickly warned his teammate not to celebrate just yet. Their sole duty was keeping an absolute lock on this castle. They had to keep their guard up and prevent any information leaks. Suddenly, another player came sprinting up, and trust me, they did not expect this guest. He shouted that he had finally found Nettle, revealing himself as Kim's from the Red Bulls. As a powerful third-ranked player, he greeted them and said it had been way too long. Nettle tensed up instantly, demanding to know what the Red Bulls were doing here. Kim's laughed and explained he was just there to clear out the mountain's area boss. He assumed Nettle was after the same target, forcing Nettle to cover his tracks. Nettle nodded along, lying that they had the exact same objective. Kim's chuckled, asking why Nettle had such an incredibly sour look on his face. He teased that maybe Nettle just really needed a bathroom break, adding that there was absolutely no shame in that before walking away. Nettle yelled that Kim's misunderstood everything. But Kim's immediately pinged his guild headquarters with the news. He confirmed that Hydra's 8th commander was spotted at the location. Hearing this report, Matador Cheb and his partner were completely stunned. It perfectly matched the anonymous tip they had received earlier. While his companion was convinced it was a hoax, they had already sent scouts. Kim's decides to verify the data just to be safe, according to the girl they received. This critical information anonymously and absolutely for free. What was the source actually after? Matador suspects there might be a mole inside Hydra itself, but Kim's argues they cannot afford to be picky right. Now Hydra could easily take everything away from them. Kim suggests starting a battle just to buy some time, but Matador disagrees. If this really is the castle of the infected count, most of Hydra is gathered there right now. The guild leader explains they cannot afford to lose an elite fighter at a moment like this. Kim's claims the commander is just flattering him. Suddenly, a massive explosion rings out, catching Matador and his companion off guard. They grow alarmed. What just happened? Raising his hands, Kim's explains that they are not the only ones who received the intel. Kim's adds that the princess from the Thunder Hunters is here too. Suddenly, a giant bear unleashes its full fury on the stone golem, raising a defensive guard in front of itself. In response, the golem strikes back slowly as always. Without any rush, the bear stands with paws lowered, waiting for the golem to Finish the strike. A couple of skeletons have been watching this match for quite some time. They even grabbed popcorn and 3D glasses, settling comfortably on a nearby log. Meanwhile, our hero sits on a branch of a massive tree, deep in thought. The young man wonders why things are so incredibly quiet right now. Talk about tense. Surely his bait was successfully sent. Why is there absolutely no response? Hurkan realizes that the only way to solve this without entering the Babaru forest is to forcefully complete the quest. The main storyline of Warlord consists of multiple chapters. The first chapter, the infected count, is currently in full swing. Once the count is defeated, this chapter will automatically end, along with all the quests tied to it. Honestly, Hurkan does not care who gets the kill. Someone just needs to go and finish him off, so he leaked the intel to several major guilds, intentionally skipping the Sayal Young Guild. Why is nobody responding? Suddenly, the stone golem begins to crumble, losing its balance entirely. Seizing the moment, the huge bear attacks the golem again. Hurkan gets tired of watching this and punches the bear right in the head, telling it to finally calm down. Hurkan is trying to watch a stream, and this bear is incredibly distracting. Meanwhile, the armless stone golem stands passively to the side as the bear deactivates. Suddenly, representatives of Hydra appear on screen, greeting their viewers. The knights announce that they are the first to uncover the identity of the count and plan a major raid on this boss. In fact, the date is already set. Spokesperson for Hydra announces that the raid begins in 3 days. Hurkan admits this is much sooner than expected, but he is not surprised. Everything is going exactly according to plan. Our hero laughs, unable to hope for a better outcome. It is simply perfect. The bear and golem clash once more in hand-to-hand combat. Hurkan notes that 3 days is very soon. The young man figures they are panicking simply because he leaked the information to other guilds. Knowing Hydra, our hero has nothing to worry. It was no fluke that they had pushed further ahead than the rest. Their roster was stacked with veteran players who knew exactly how to win. Once this main quest was done, the headache would finally be over. It should have taken 3 days, but disaster hit the Hydra Guild first. They were wiped out. As Hurkan watched the footage, his face fell. He slammed his phone onto the floor, roaring in absolute frustration. They were mocking him. If they wanted to clear it, they should have prepared properly. Why would they even rush in if they were going to fail so fast? Failing in under an hour, Hurkan realized he had completely overestimated them. Now he had to search for another way out. Suddenly, a notification flashed on his phone. The Red Bulls were streaming. He knew they were the heavy hitters, led by the legendary Matador Cheb. Hurkan stared at the screen, unable to believe what he was seeing. The battlefield was being completely restored, and a knight immediately questioned his scouts. Did they see the monster that just crushed the massive Hydra Guild? Their own supplies were running dangerously low, and their chances seemed almost zero. Yet the guild stood united, completely behind their leader. They roared in defiance, raising their blades high into the air. Chanting the name Red Bulls, their battle cries echoed through the night. Hurkan was genuinely shocked. I mean, did they seriously plan to charge in right now? On screen, Matador introduced a powerful surprise ally, joining them for the raid. It was the leader of the Thunder Hunters, the legendary Surai. Matador Cheb sat by a glowing campfire, looking remarkably relaxed. He admitted her sudden arrival was quite unexpected, never anticipating this. He wondered why the fearsome Thunder Queen herself wanted to see him, asking with a smirk if her guild had decided to declare war. Surai shook her head, stating they were partners for this raid. Matador grunted, reminding her that she had severely beaten his man, Kim. She casually dismissed it as just a friendly greeting between rivals. Surai wanted to get straight to business, asking if he possessed real details. Cheb played dumb, claiming he knew nothing about the infected count. Surai warned him that she had absolutely zero time for his childish games. She knew top players from the 30 elite guilds already had the location. She pointed out that anyone paying attention would have figured it out. Only a complete fool would still be in the dark about it. Cheb laughed, admitting she was cornering him, but she was completely correct. They didn't know the source, so Surai pressed with another burning question. She asked point blank if the Hydra Guild could actually survive this. Cheb knew they would fail, and Surai agreed. They rushed in blindly. They wanted the first clear so badly, but the infected count is brutal. As the first story boss, defeating him is a massive challenge. It would be smarter to let other teams test the waters first. But Matador knew she did not come just to gossip about rivals. So what was her real motive? Suddenly, she jabbed her weapon. Her blade plunged deep into the dirt near his feet, issuing a proposal. They were joining forces for a raid on the Count, and Sira offered to cooperate. She was willing to yield the final blow, but Matador suspected she was bluffing. But she knew how to negotiate. A deal was struck, and the joint raid was approved. Once the battle began, Sira quickly showed off her outstanding combat abilities. The infected Count, who served as the first chapter's final boss, sneered at them. He mocked them, saying their pathetic display wasn't half bad for a bunch of scum. The boss then declared that he would grind his opponents into pure dust. As the beasts charged, desperate players screamed that they had to hold the line. Despair loomed, the odds were heavily stacked against them. With the frontline pushed to its absolute limit, Sira muttered that the endless horde just kept coming. As the onslaught raged on, Matador Cheb suddenly stepped up to Sira. He offered to hold off the monsters himself to clear a path for the Queen of Thunder. Telling Matador to focus on the boss instead, the fierce girl leaped high into the air. She swung her glowing blade, shouting that this would be the end, but she was wrong. The infected Count shot his tentacles through the earth, impaling her mid-strike. Blood splattered, yet the Queen of Thunder refused to stay down. She sliced clean through the boss's tentacles, leaving Matador Cheb completely dumbfounded. He muttered that only the legendary Sira could pull off something so insanely reckless. To him, she was far more terrifying than anyone could have ever dreamed. A global system alert announced that the Raid Alliance had slain the boss. Checking his phone, our hero noticed that Xiao Yun secured the final kill. Disappointment stung. Still, the young man quickly shrugged it off. Honestly, it didn't matter to him who cleared the raid, as long as the boss died. He muttered that Xiao Yun could enjoy her brief moment of glory. After all, this was destined to be the very last boss she would ever defeat. Hurkan knew that when the dust settled, he would be the only one left standing. Near the Balkis Mountains, the young man, Yehyun, goes by his in-game alias. He is Hurkan, miraculously reborn with dreams of becoming the absolute strongest player in existence. He is determined to exact brutal revenge on every single trash player who crossed him. Yet despite his grand ambitions, he still cannot understand why trouble constantly finds him. And trust me, things are not going exactly according to his master plan. They are running frantically from savage boar monsters, rewinding back a few hours earlier. Hurkan and his undead crew had reached the restricted block zone barrier. He knew this forbidden zone would remain locked tight until specific conditions were met. Gently touching the magical portal, Hurkan realized getting through would not be easy. He was blocked, getting through would not be easy. But as a regressor, he already knew the game's second chapter started right here. So the moment the first chapter wrapped up, the barrier would immediately drop. The gateway would swing wide open, and that is exactly what happened next. A sudden system notification flashed, confirming his entry into the Balkis Mountains. He was immediately granted the exclusive title of First Explorer of this region. It made perfect sense, since no other player had ever set foot here. Grinning, Hurkan ordered his skeletons to move out, declaring it was time to shine. Now we see why he is not just running away from those beasts. Their leader is a level 60 wild boar, and it is a ferocious monster. Pack hunters, but Hurkan, a level 41 player, is totally ready. He prepares to charge, the beasts growl, bearing giant fangs. What a nightmare, Hurkan feels cursed, getting jumped by boars this quickly. He barely took 10 steps into the mountains before getting completely ambushed. Others might already know this dangerous forbidden zone is officially open. No time to waste, the survival rate looks terrible, but he must try. Scrambling for a plan, Hurkan commands his summoned skeletons to prepare for battle. Helmets on, but the savage boars ruthlessly trample them down. Bones scatter, a system alert suddenly flashes across his field of vision. His skeleton warrior is destroyed after taking devastating physical damage. One hit, Hurkan watches in disbelief as they vaporize his summon. A total glitch, his laziness curse. Boars grow furious now that Hurkan has frozen them solid. Completely frozen, Hurkan tells them they are not getting away. They will be stuck. Now our hero changes his strategy completely. He ignites his energy blade, determined to make them pay for everything. Pay for the broken skeleton, the young warrior takes a running leap. He slips and face plants hard, slipped on a discarded banana peel. Up in a tree, a wild beast howls with laughter, a level 50 armored monkey. This smug creature mocks its prey. Jurkin yells that the monkey is next. He swears to crush that monkey. Suddenly, his freeze spell wears off. The boars regain mobility. Jurkin realizes things have gone horribly wrong. Here it comes, the beasts close in on our helpless hero. An arrow strikes out of nowhere. Jurkin looks up, completely stunned. A mysterious archer perched in a tree keeps, firing his crossbow with absolute precision. Incredible, Jurkin watches as the marksman drops the boars with single shots. The archer drops down, asking the young man if he is hurt. Meanwhile, over at Shiryu Castle, the lively town square is bustling. Local players stare in sheer awe at a mysterious young warrior walking past. Is he seriously wearing a full set of white mamba armor? That costs a fortune. He must be an elite ranker, yet nobody knows him. The ranker quietly asks his companion if Michelle found the source of leaks. They need to find who leaked this crucial intel to the guilds. She admits they have zero leads. Michelle points out the issue. Their target knew the identity of the infected count, yet leaked it. They gave away invaluable secrets completely for free. Why do that? Finding a phantom like that seems completely impossible. The ranker wonders if Haho's mask is involved, but Michelle doubts it. That player only uploaded a basic gameplay clip of giant bears. A fresh rookie just starting the main quest cannot be the mastermind. Shifting focus, Michelle asks which player the elite ranker will assist next. The warrior explains his current interest lies with the cleanup guild. Michelle sighs, realizing peace is a fantasy. The ranker agrees but remains focused. He will continue his helper duties while she tracks down their target. Our warrior has no clue who they are chasing, but he expects trouble. Whoever is throwing this world's balance into chaos needs to be held accountable. The archer asks our hero if he was ever a student of Akimbri. Jurkin confirms it, never imagining he would actually run into this guy. It is Mavaun himself, the legendary key NPC of Chapter 2. The veteran ranger notes that our young hero is incredibly lucky. Stumbling upon Mavaun during his mountain patrol was a massive stroke of good fortune. Mavaun is a highly skilled veteran who once served as the prince's personal fencing master. But a single tragic accident got him exiled from the royal court. Now he leads the rangers protecting the dangerous Balkas Mountains. Jurkin had been searching everywhere for him, knowing this meeting would save massive amounts of time. Mavaun warns the young adventurer that he needs to turn back immediately. He has no idea what drew him to these peaks. But these mountains hold nothing but bloodthirsty monsters. Jurkin needs to turn back right now before something truly terrible happens to him. But Jurkin drops a bombshell. The infected count is already dead. Hearing this, the protagonist realizes he won't have to struggle nearly as hard. He already holds the key to claiming the massive rewards of Chapter 2. Still, the seasoned ranger warns that infected beasts are wandering the wilderness. Jurkin explains his mission. He wants to uncover the truth behind his investigation. Mavaun admits he has a strong suspicion, though concrete proof is still lacking. So he asks the young warrior to help collect the necessary clues. Instantly, a system alert chimes. He just earned a unique server first title. Meeting the legendary mountain ranger grants him a massive permanent stat boost. On top of that, he unlocks the initiator title, leaving him absolutely thrilled. 2 rare titles already. This quest is turning out great. Jurkin eagerly tells the ranger he will help in any way possible. Asking where to begin, Mavaun instructs him to start by observing local monsters. This official hunt from Ranger Mavaun requires him to slay mountain beasts. To complete it, he must purge the corruption from the Balkas Mountains. Heading out, Jurkin focuses entirely on grinding his levels and sharpening his skills. He wisely avoids elite threats like wild boars and massive bear warriors. Those powerhouses can wait. For now, he needs a much easier target. Jurkin remembers a certain annoying monkey and decides it is the perfect first target. Just down the path, a random player slips on a banana peel and crashes hard. Seconds later, another poor soul takes the exact same comical tumble. From the branches, the wicked monkey laughs hysterically as a new player approaches. It is a young girl armed with a dagger, completely unaware of the trap. As the beast prepares to fling another peel, Jurkin suddenly teleports in. Declaring the prankster's game officially over, he unleashes a rapid flurry of strikes. The powerful blow sends the shrieking creature flying backward. Somehow recovering midair, the agile beast quickly flees through the treetops. Jurkin pursues, annoyed by how incredibly loud and frantic the target is. Even worse, the thick forest foliage makes landing a clean hit nearly impossible. Drawing his secondary blade, he hurls the sharp dagger straight at his prey. Spotting the weapon, the clever creature pivots midair as the blade sinks into a tree. High in a tree, the monkey smirks. She thinks she easily escaped. But the young man just smiles, that dagger only a diversion. Then total shock, a massive stone golem completely shatters her tree. A powerful punch obliterates her branch, throwing everything into absolute chaos. The monkey goes flying, smashed aside by the shockwave. She hits the ground hard. Right then, a system alert pops up, a rare new title unlocked. First to defeat the armored monkey, Jurkin cheers in victory. With this, they can hunt more. Nearby, news cameras start rolling. Reporters swarm the victorious players, who happen to be top guild leaders. Everyone congratulates Chibu and Sir for pulling off this epic raid victory. They beat the first boss. Naturally, reporters swarm the Queen of Thunder. Humbly, Sir claims they were just lucky, but they will keep working hard. Even so, they promise to keep pushing to deliver even better results later. Her guildmate praises her as the absolute best when hope seemed completely lost. But then their brave leader charged straight into that final, terrifying monster wave. She soloed the infected count, yet she insists it was pure luck. Honestly, they never would have survived without help from the Red Bulls. But to truly dominate, she knows they need a specific player's skills. She is looking for Haho's mask. He holds the power they need. Sir tells Hatch to contact him, leaving her companion thoroughly confused. Why recruit that loser? Anyway, the armored monkey is officially done for. But there is a catch. His weapon durability has dropped to 0. It is completely worn out. A costly upgrade is now absolutely necessary. The problem, no cash. His only choice is to hunt for gems. These special crystals have a terribly low drop rate, but are vital for crafting. For instance, green goblin gems give a major boost to your agility. And blue werewolf gems increase raw attack power. Every gem behaves differently. Armored monkey gems are especially prized for crafting top-tier defensive equipment. Jurkin is fired up. He is ready to exterminate every single monkey. 9 long hours pass. Still, not a single gem drops for them. Thousands of dead monkeys, yet absolute 0 loot. Talk about a painful grind. He hopes he is just 1 kill away, but it is just a cruel illusion. Suddenly, a red knight steps out of the forest, blocking his way. He stops Jurkin, asking if he is the famous Haho's mask. Jurkin sizes him up. The guy is wearing incredibly expensive dragon armor. He remembers those 2 faces. Please do not let him be one of theirs. The knight introduces himself. He goes by the name of Kayot. And immediately, he challenges our hero to a high-stakes duel right here. Kayot figures defeating the legendary Haho's mask will make him instantly famous. Jurkin sighs. This is just another typical loser desperate for attention. He coldly tells the knight he is way too busy and walks away. Already in a foul mood with 0 gems, he has 0 patience for this weirdo. Wait, stop, the Red Knight refuses to let him leave so easily. He promises 5,000 gold coins if they fight. Now that is tempting. Kayot claims he is a hero of justice while pulling off theatrical poses. Kayot was used to getting plenty of attention, but in Warlord, nobody spared him a second glance. Desperate to be seen as a true hero, Kayot had just uploaded a brand new video. He begged everyone to subscribe, but at that exact moment, famous masked warrior Haho also posted his own video, leaving Kayot absolutely furious. Since they uploaded at the exact same time, absolutely nobody cared about Kayot. Left ignored, Kayot suddenly spotted a player standing in the clearing. He realized it was the legendary masked player and immediately hatched a plan. He would steal this man's glory, charging out to propose a high-stakes cash duel. Gherkin was completely baffled, wondering what this strange naked guy was doing. Honestly, who challenges someone to a duel while stripped down to their underwear? Kayot claimed it kept things fair, knowing Haho's primary weapon was currently broken. He insisted on a completely clean match to prove his own combat skills. He didn't want anyone claiming his victory came from superior high-tier gear. Kayot demanded the masked warrior fight him with everything he had right now. Without another word, the eager knight lunged straight at our protagonist. Gherkin had 0 desire to fight a naked man, but he quickly dodged the blow. Kayot activated his booster skill, pouncing forward with even greater fury. The reckless knight wanted this victory more than anything else. He was desperate to prove to the entire gaming community that he was superior. Hurkan smoothly avoided another swing, scooped up some dirt, and threw it. It blinded Kayot. Seizing the opening, Gherkin delivered a devastating counterstrike. Kayot flew backward, slamming hard against a tree trunk and losing consciousness. His obsession with holding back actually cost him the entire match. As he came to, Kayot realized that one direct hit would have finished him. Gherkin pointed out that Kayot had started this conflict himself. There was absolutely no room for excuses. Terrified, Kayot raised his hands. He begged the masked hero to stop, officially surrendering. Tears welled up in Kayot's eyes as Gherkin punched a nearby tree. The trunk shattered, leaving Kayot completely terrified. He forgot it was a game. Gherkin reminded him of their wager, a hefty 5,000 gold coins. Removing his helmet, Kayot stared in awe at his opponent's incredible strength. He admitted Haho's mask was on a completely different level. Still stunned by the massive gap, Kayot immediately conceded the match. A heavy pouch of gold materialized directly in his hand. He handed over the coins, then offered his sword as a sign of respect. Gherkin was absolutely thrilled. It was the legendary sword of the orc hero. This weapon boosts strength and stamina while completely ignoring physical defense. We're talking 15,000 gold coins at auction, an absolute fortune. Was Kayot really giving it away? Gherkin asked why he was doing this. Kayot explained it was a token of gratitude for a harsh but valuable lesson. His obsession with fame had completely stalled his actual growth as a player. Facing the masked warrior finally brought him back to reality. Kayot happily declared that Gherkin was officially his new big brother. Gherkin found the sudden declaration incredibly weird and pushed him away. Telling the eccentric knight to step aside, Gherkin turned back to his skeleton minions. They quickly deal with this guy. Soon, the young man is tied tightly to a wooden cross. He loudly screams his name is Don Kiet, promising to return when he is finally worthy. Swearing to be worthy of being called his brother, Kiet eagerly awaits their meeting. Gherkin does not want to hear any more of this and simply leaves. Our main character agrees that this madman, whoever he is really going all out in this game. What a complete champ. Gherkin notes that he just acquired a pretty powerful new sword, which luckily means he can completely stop hunting down those annoying armored monkeys. Gherkin decides this is the perfect moment to move on to his next quest. He briefly wonders if he should destroy hundreds of armored monkeys anyway. Maybe those crystals will drop. His skeletons try to hold their master back, but he insists his luck is about to change. He can feel it. The Orc Hero Sword is actually a rare artifact that heavily boosts both strength and stamina. While ignoring armor, he looks at his player cards: 950 monkeys, 104 wolves, and 76 poisonous lizards defeated. Mavan says, "It is outstanding work, thanks to Gherkin. The investigation is proceeding smoothly." The hunter asks what is currently on his mind. Gherkin replies that he was simply daydreaming about his future cash. Mavan warns him that he needs to listen very closely because this next mission is extremely dangerous. It's going to be exceptionally dangerous for him. Spreading a map across the table, Mavan points to a specific spot and explains that a warrior bear has been actively spotted roaming the snowy mountain near the peak. Yes, you heard that right, a massive 4-meter-tall bear fully clad in actual human armor. If Gherkin can find where they get their gear, it will help the investigation. So our hero asks to clarify. Does the hunter want him to slay one and bring back its equipment? Mavan asks if he can handle it alone. Even experienced rangers find it quite hard to fight them one-on-one. Gherkin confidently says he can handle it, adding that he already has a plan. To defeat them, he approaches the foot of the mountain and checks his map. Realizing he is right in the area, Gherkin decides it is time to flex a bit. He activates his active slot, and the system immediately reports that the player has successfully opened up the active auction window to bid. Checking the listings, Gherkin realizes that, at his current level, the absolute best option he can possibly afford right now is the complete skeleton snake gear set. Once the transaction is confirmed, he equips the brand new armor, including the matching set gloves. Gherkin then decides to use his remaining funds to purchase skill books for his level, knowing he still is not quite ready for the power level of a bear warrior. Turning around, he suddenly spots his summoned skeletons, looking incredibly sad and disappointed. They want cool equipment too, which Gherkin completely forgot about. He quickly browses the market listings for anything that might be suitable for his skeletons. Unfortunately, he does not have enough gold left. He slowly turns around to explain that he is broke. The summoned skeletons slump in disappointment. Gherkin feels pretty guilty and promises that as soon as he gets more cash, he will buy them great gear. Wild monster boars suddenly appear behind Gherkin. The young man immediately realizes he can make some quick cash hunting them. His armed skeletons waste no time and instantly charge forward to attack. Gherkin smiles, thinking these monsters showed up at the perfect moment. The skeletons seem pretty jealous of his gear. Soon, only one beast is left. Gherkin orders them to stop messing around and finish it off, promising them gear later. But before his summoned squad can even move, something unexpected happens. The last boar gets taken down by an outside attack, catching Gherkin off guard. He looks back to find a group of strangers, demanding to know who he is. They yell that this territory belongs exclusively to the Apollo Guild. Gherkin stares at the three newcomers, writing them off as a total nuisance. The trio introduces themselves as Wang Chang, Li Chang, and Il Chang. They call themselves the top tier of Apollo, but Gherkin just nods. He says he gets it, then proceeds to absolutely wreck the cocky three. He notes that they should not talk so big with such pathetic skills. He seriously wonders if he is a walking trouble magnet who needs a blessing. Gherkin refuses to waste another second on trash and tells his skeletons to keep up. Behind him, one of the beaten guild members groans that Gherkin will pay for this. He struggles to his feet and manages to send out a distress signal. He sends an alarm using his war watch. Elsewhere, a ring-wearing boss places his hand gently on the head of a massive tiger. He is stunned that some random nobody dared attack his guild members. His assistant confirms the news, while everyone nearby bows in absolute fear. This powerful master, Zhenya, commands that the insolent brat be brought to him. He will make the boy pay dearly for showing such utter disrespect. Meanwhile, Gherkin looks back only to find his skeletons goofing off. They are literally dancing around, leaving him wondering what they are even doing. He snaps at them, warning that their next target is a warrior bear. It is a level 70 beast with 3 faces, meaning they must prepare. Defeating this monster will finally push them into the top 30 guilds. This is a vital main quest, and Gherkin warns his squad that failure is simply not an option today. The summons nod in agreement. Just then, a heavy rustle makes Gherkin spin around to face the beast. The 3-faced bear warrior charges directly at him with its sword drawn. While his skeletons freeze in utter terror, Gherkin instantly unlocks his gear slot. Fully armored and ready, he prepares to face the beast head-on. He decides he will handle this high-stakes raid completely by himself. Elsewhere, another player arrives at a peak, identifying it as the Balkis Mountains. He hopes to find the legendary mask of Haho hidden somewhere nearby. He rushed here right after seeing that viral armored monkey video. Still, he cannot help but complain about how terribly his guild treats him. As a top-tier member, he feels insulted being used as a simple errand boy. They constantly send him out to hunt down completely worthless targets. He thinks getting exiled just for ignoring a few basic rules is totally unfair. Suddenly, a massive level 65 wild boar King thunders right past him, leaving the man activated a magical fire shield, putting himself entirely out of reach. The giant king of wild boars couldn't touch Mac Badass Hatch of the Thunder Hunters. As a top guild member, Baptist Hatch held the 5th position in the mage rankings. His mission was simple: find the Haho mask. Meanwhile, our hero remembered a past fight. Back in his past life, his entire guild hunted this massive beast. It took them 6 grueling attempts to win. If he failed now, others would steal the lead. They would easily take the lead in the main quest. Still, the young man felt confident. He was ready, having mastered powerful new skills just for this moment. Gherkin ordered his summoned skeletons to prepare for attack on his signal. The young man decided it was time to activate his new passive skill, Muscle Modification. Our hero charged into battle. Suddenly, the angry warrior bear swatted with fury at the skeletons with a massive paw. The system reported that the skeleton warriors took critical damage and were completely destroyed. The muscle modification skill strengthens his legs, vastly increasing the power and speed of his jump. He was just glad the physics of the game didn't launch him straight to the moon. Gherkin grabbed the perfect opportunity and began to increase his speed, diving directly at the warrior bear to deliver a crushing blow. However, the young man admitted that this current skill was completely useless, requiring a lot more work. Suddenly, our hero found himself caught in the crushing fist of the massive bear. The young man broke free after a struggle, barely escaping. He did, however, manage to shatter the beast's heavy armor on one side. Still, Gherkin didn't know how to utilize this clumsy skill since he couldn't land his strikes accurately. Where he needed to, Gherkin decided it was time to deploy the bomb. This powerful tool triggers a massive magical explosion. Gherkin realized that he couldn't defeat the heavy opponent with standard damage alone. Gherkins. Skeletons stared at their master with deep suspicion. The young man assured them that this attempt would be completely different. The last failure was just a mistake. He had only twisted his ankle. Gherkin announced the golem was on duty today. Next, Gherkin declared that the warrior bear had finally fallen straight into his trap. From here on, our hero noted that they had to proceed without using his sword. It was stuck, completely impossible to pull from the heavy stone. Smiling, Gherkin warned the giant warrior bear that he still had one trick left. He told him not to let his guard down before launching a surprise fire. Unfortunately, the tracking aim was slightly off target. Wild flames caught our hero too. Gherkin quickly ordered his skeleton mage to attack, on his command, giving his own commander a solid chance to step aside safely. The warrior bear roared with fury, activating a deafening battle cry. The young man abandoned all strategy, choosing to overwhelm the beast with sheer brute force. Minutes of intense, non-stop physical clashes followed, until the opponent finally collapsed. The system confirmed the destruction of the warrior bear, awarding massive experience points. The challenging ranger's quest was officially completed. Our hero had single-handedly slaughtered the beast that once crushed his entire guild. 6 times before his regression, Gherkin felt he approached this battle with dignity. His progress was undeniable. The young man warmly praised his summoned skeletons, saying they did an exceptional job. Now he could finally report back to Melvin. Moving on to the next quest, inside the western tavern of the Balkis Mountains. Baddest Hatch sat alone at a table with a freshly poured mug of beer. No luck today, he could not find the Haho mask anywhere. Hatch had no idea what his guild leader expected from this solo search. Sent out completely alone, he was deeply resentful of the Thunder Hunters. Over a call, the guild leader gently noted that he sounded pretty exhausted. Touched by her sudden concern, Hatch insisted he was fine and asked to return. No way, the guild leader had already sent Hee to help him. Right as she spoke, the tavern wall suddenly exploded into a giant hole. Chaos incarnate, Hee stepped right through the wreckage she had just created. She immediately told Baddest Hatch that he would have to handle the cleanup. Hee was completely unhinged and constantly looked down on the young mage. Meanwhile, Gherkin reached the outskirts and saw a massive crowd gathered below. A makeshift camp filled the valley. Gherkin muttered that it was way too obvious. The main quest was updating. He had to reach the hunter Mavon immediately. But as he moved, the young man glanced back and saw 3 players following. Tired of the tale, Gherkin stopped and invited them to try their luck. He was ready for a quick fight, but the trio instantly turned tail. They sprinted away in pure terror, leaving Gherkin completely baffled. Talk about a weird reaction. He had not even unsheathed his weapon when his pursuers suddenly screamed. An invisible attacker struck them down as blinding flashes of light erupted. The 3 players were completely neutralized, collapsing onto the bloody dirt. The deadly duo stood there, convinced they had finally located their target. Gherkin immediately recognized them as elites from the Thunder Hunters. Hatch stepped forward and demanded to know if Gherkin was Haho Mask. He held the rank 2 spot within the entire Thunder Hunters Guild. She was a hysterical zealot who would happily dive straight into hell on command. Standing beside her was Hatch, the rank 3 powerhouse of the guild. He was a genius mage whose deadly spells left absolutely no room for escape. In his past life, Gherkin found these 2 extremely hard to deal with. Now their paths were crossing again. Gherkin knew they were highly dangerous. If they wanted the Haho Mask, they likely intended to recruit him forcibly. Taking them both on right now was highly risky. Gherkin jumped down from the tree and asked what mask they meant. He casually decided to play dumb since they had no concrete proof. But he got right in his face, telling him not to lie. How could anyone in the Balkis Mountains not know about the famous mask? The video of his exploits already had over 20 million views online. He pointed out his identical cloak, insisting she could not be mistaken. Hatch told her to pipe down, they had much bigger issues to handle. The mage complained that he was a total idiot for blowing up that tavern. She had slaughtered innocent players inside the building for absolutely no reason. How were they supposed to sweep this massive mess under the rug now? As a top-tier guild, there was no way they could avoid the massive backlash. Hatch ordered Hee to apologize before the reputation of their guild was ruined. Hee refused. Why should she? Apologize, the protagonist knew these two had always been this way. He finally calmed down, but was that really what he wanted? The girl just walked away. Hatch was furious. What kind of attitude was that? Hatch apologized to Hurkan, saying it was all a misunderstanding. Hurkan felt they had at least fallen behind. Right then, a massive fist flashed in front of him. He quickly lunged at him, landing a pretty devastating punch right to his face. Hatch grabbed her by her shoulders. What kind of crazy behavior was this? He casually replied that she assumed he would easily dodge. Hurkan slowly got up from the dirt, saying, "You cannot just attack players for no reason." Our protagonist pushed his glasses up to hide the bruise under his eye, threatening to file an official complaint against both of them. Hurkan added that he would also post about this online, calling Thunder Hunters a malicious guild that attacks newbies just for fun. Hatch quickly promised they would pay for everything, just do not complain. Hatch decided to avoid trouble and offered a heavy sack of gold coins to settle things. Hurkan said he would accept 1,000 gold coins and let it slide this time. Hatch grabbed her hand, announcing they were leaving. He replied that she already understood. Trust me, our protagonist was just as annoyed by this, but right now it was his best option. He could not draw any more attention to himself. He had to bide his time. Hatch asked Hee why she always was in trouble. Did she not understand that it was crucial for a massive guild to maintain its good reputation? He argued that players instinctively dodge when they get attacked. Hatch was absolutely indignant. Was she really blaming him for not dodging when she attacked? He added that the guy grimaced right before the blow. What was wrong with him? Why did he not dodge? Hatch begged the girl to stop causing them so much trouble. On the table lay a piece of armor from a fully armored warrior bear. Mavon asked what was going on. If it had not been for this young man, many bad things would have happened. The hunter asked if he was all right, but the young man wanted Mavon to hurry. If they delayed, the top 30 guilds would easily catch up to him. Mavon opened the chest, letting our hero choose a single item. Laid out before him were maps of dungeons and beasts that Mavon had encountered during all his years working in the Balkis Mountains. The young man quickly realized that these were genuine treasure maps, marking every dungeon where rich rewards could still be obtained. Mavon stated that in return for these maps, he wanted the young man to fulfill a simple request. Our hero immediately realized that the only free thing in life is cheese in a mousetrap. Mavon added that armored monsters had been appearing more and more in the Balkis Mountains. This matter needed to be properly investigated. Hurkan asked where that was. The hunter replied that it was in the Porung forest. Our protagonist was incredibly upset. Mavon asked what was wrong, and the young man replied that in reality, Hurkan knew that the Porung forest was a dangerous zone reserved for level 90 players. Because of that, he suggested Sura Canyon as the perfect place to hunt. It was a dangerous area, crawling with level 75 demons, but he was ready. He figured that since he had already handled the giant armored bear with ease, this would be simple. These demon goats would not be a problem. But when he arrived, Hurkan was absolutely shocked to see a certain player standing there. What was the legendary ranker, Matador Chubb, doing here? Meanwhile, Hatch was on a video call, desperately telling Miss Sierra that he had reached his limit. To make matters worse, Hay threatened him with severe retribution. She warmly thanked her hardworking team, but Hatch pointed out that the rival Red Bulls Guild had already claimed Sura Canyon, so they should probably focus on the main quest. Why waste time chasing some random player who has absolutely no interest in joining their guild? Sierra agreed, telling her scouts to stop looking for the mysterious Haho mask. They needed to prioritize the main quest and stop searching. Sierra muttered that the strong would eventually cross paths, no matter how much they ran. She would see just how long this Haho mask could keep running. Just then, a level 75 demonic goat growled at him, only to be sliced in half instantly. The monster collapsed, and Hurkan decided his skeleton soldier had done its job. With that single kill, the system announced a very welcome level up for our hero. Hurkan was thrilled to hit level 62, knowing his hard work was paying off. He just needed to keep grinding like this before finally heading off to the Porong forest. Suddenly, a crowd of players who had been watching from afar surrounded him. They instantly recognized him as the Haho Mask, begging him to just look their way. Feeling the sudden pressure, Hurkan had no choice but to turn around and sprint away quickly. The fanboys were completely baffled as to why their idol was running away. Hurkan himself could not understand why these strange people were suddenly so obsessed with him. Then he remembered his video fighting the armored bear had hit 3 million views. He was absolutely thrilled that it went viral, already wondering how much cash he would make. But as we know, fame brings major trouble, and stalkers followed Hurkan everywhere. He could not even focus on grinding, with people following him everywhere. This whole chaotic situation was driving him crazy, forcing him to change his plans on the spot. He decided to ditch the area and head straight to Sora Canyon. The high-level monsters there would easily scare off those annoying stalkers. And that is exactly how our lucky protagonist ended up running back to the very same place. He suddenly slowed down when he spotted a familiar player standing ahead. It was none other than Matador Chubb, who pointed out they had not met in a while. Chubb asked with a grin how the young man had ended up back here so soon. The leader recalled meeting him in the beginner zone, admitting things had ended awkwardly. He was clearly impressed by how incredibly fast the young man had managed to level up. Just a few months ago, he was a complete newbie, yet here he was in Sora Canyon. Hurkan politely asked what brought a high-tier ranker like Chubb to this location. After all, this canyon was far too low-level for someone of his caliber. Chubb explained that his powerful guild, the Red Bulls, had taken complete control of Sora Canyon. Now it was his responsibility, as they wanted to stay close to the main quest. Hurkan listened closely, and that is when he suddenly put the pieces together. These guys had already made solid progress. Matador then mentioned that he hoped to find Hao's mask here, even asking if the rookie had seen his fight against the warrior bear. Supposedly, the guy lives around here. Leaving him wondering who the guy actually was, Hurkan turned and bolted, yelling that he had no clue who Hao's mask was. The young man could not understand why everyone was suddenly hunting him. First Sol Yon, now Matador Cheb. 2 massive guilds were on his tail. Why the terrible luck? At this rate, Hurkan realized he would never be able to level up or finish his quest. Would he seriously have to find another farming spot? Unfortunately, nothing good was nearby. This area was the only decent spot. Then he remembered Mavaun's map. If his memory was right, a rare dungeon was hidden close by. Usually these secret spots are tucked away. Incredibly dangerous, hard-to-reach spots, like the lakeside where the Hurkan knew it would be tough, but the payoff could be massive. He took one deep breath and plunged straight to the bottom of the lake. His skeleton swam right behind him. Oxygen was running low, though. He had less than 20 seconds of air left, if the map was correct. The entrance was right here. He just prayed he would survive the dive. Catching a glimpse of light above, Hurkan scrambled up toward the surface. The distance was brutal, but he was betting his life on making it. Just in time, he broke the water, and his summons emerged right after. Instantly, a system alert popped up, granting him a rare pioneer title. Hurkan grinned. This was absolutely perfect. Now, if players started giving him trouble, he could easily slip down here to lose them. But what about the local monsters? He wondered what kind of beasts lurked in the deep. Hidden dungeons meant incredibly strong threats, but the very first creature they found was a basic slime. His skeletons gathered around, inspecting it with curiosity. Hurkan scoffed at the sight. He had not risked his life just to fight slimes. Then the little creature turned bright red and began spitting actual fire. He had never seen anything like this. Our hero quickly realized this was an elemental variant. In Warlord, monsters with elemental attributes are extremely rare. The crafting loot they drop can be used to enchant weapons with elemental damage. That makes them incredibly popular on the market. This meant the young man was sitting on a literal goldmine. Grinning, Hurkan sent his skeletons forward, ordering them to clear the area. Find and smash everything, but suddenly a level 70 beast appeared. A fiery salamander materialized. It was a brutal, mid-tier fire-type monster. It instantly whipped out a searing tongue of fire. Hurkan and his summons turned tail and ran for their lives. Covered in soot, he had to admit. that this monster was on a whole different level. Fighting her directly was a bad idea. He needed a better plan fast. While the beast was distracted, he decided to strike first. Summoning a fireball, he prepped his summons. A skeleton equipped the helmet of madness. Blazing horns erupted from its skull as the undead prepared to charge. Grew an unnatural bony beard, looking incredibly bizarre. Hurkan figured he could finally use the black orc skull to make his skeletons way stronger. The skeleton knight was summoned, boasting an absolute beast of a rank, a fire. Salamander prepared to fight, slowly creeping toward its opponent, Hurkan. Smirked, wondering how the lizard liked facing his newly upgraded skeleton knight. Suddenly, he noticed a whole swarm of these fiery salamanders crawling toward him. He realized this was about to become an incredibly unfair fight against a massive mob. The creatures hissed aggressively, but Hurkan had already made his choice. He sent in the skeleton knight. The summon swung its sword, slicing the monster into clean, tiny pieces. A system notification confirmed that the salamander was defeated, flooding his bar with fresh experience points. Hurkan stared at his creation and whispered that it was absolute perfection. Even the other summons looked impressed. Hurkan knew that auto-farming was the ultimate cheat code. He was thrilled, now that his summons were strong enough. To hunt alone, he could just sit back and watch. With salamander essence selling for a premium, he knew he would easily make back all the gold he spent upgrading them. Hurkan decided to keep farming like this until every single summon was maxed out. Our hero told his skeletons to keep grinding while he checked out a lead, and they headed straight for the Perong forest. An hour later, Hurkan was frowning again. He muttered that this was exactly what he feared. Things were going way too smoothly. A sudden system notification popped up right in front of him. He had discovered the throne room dungeon instance. Did he want to enter? Hurkan hesitated, knowing how risky this could be. If things went south, he might not make it out alive. He knew that if he failed, he would be locked out of the game for 2 whole days. That was more than enough time for rival guilds like the Thunder Hunters to surpass him on the main questline. But looking around, Hurkan realized there were no other decent farming spots left nearby. He was completely out of options.